Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto pretends to be weak. Fairy tale. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. And check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Demons within the bodies of angels and angels hidden in the images of demons. Let me help Mira-chan. A 13-year-old boy with blonde hair and bright blue eyes yelled to the white-haired beauty in front of him. He wore an orange jumpsuit with his ankles taped with sandals. The 19-year-old barmaid glared at the little boy in front of her as he tried to get involved against the invading Phantom Lord. Mirahin was stern and not letting him fight with the rest of them. "This is my guild too, so let me fight." "No. Why not?" Naruto yelled back as he tried to glare at Mirahin. He was forced to stay back when they attacked Phantom Lord, so he should at least be allowed to fight now. "I have to fight for Gigi." "No, you'll get hurt." Mirahin tried to reason with him as she stared at Naruto's face. Naruto gritted his teeth as tears threatened to fall down his eyes. "I don't care, I'm going to fight like everyone else." Naruto was going to walk past Mirahin, but was surprised when Mira grabbed his wrist and turned him around. The next act surprised him even more. She slapped him across his face. He stared at her with shock and touched his cheek that was stinging with pain. He's been punched by her when she was younger, kicked by her, strangled by her, but never slapped. "I'm not letting you get anyone hurt because they have to worry about you the whole time. Now I want you to stay down in the basement and stay there. Do I make myself clear?" Mirahin yelled in a scolding manner before turning around and leaving. Naruto clenched his fist as he let tears fall for his own weakness. How could he grow up around strong people but not be strong himself? Strength can be acquired if you have the conviction to match it. Urza-chan. Urza turned around when she heard the voice of Naruto. She just finished packing for her trip to a cane resort where Lucy got tickets from Loke after everyone found out he was a celestial spirit. Naruto gave one of his signature grins as he was prepared to ask her for training. He's been weak long enough and it was time in training to become strong. He tried to ask Gigi for help, but he shrugged him off saying he doesn't have the magic capacity to learn any of his spells, so to leave him drink. He was discouraged until he thought that maybe Urza would teach him how to wield a blade. If he was able to wield a blade, people would actually take him serious and see him as the weakest member. "What is it, Naruto?" Urza asked the slightly excited Naruto. She was surprised by his attitude, so she crossed her arms around her armored chest and gave him her attention. "I was wondering that when you return, if you will teach me how to wield a sword." Naruto yelled the last part with a stiff bow. He felt that if he acted more respectful toward the scary deed, she would no doubt teach him. "No." Urza bluntly said, causing Naruto to look up with confusion. But why not?" Naruto asked with confusion and slight pain of the sudden rejection. Naruto just wanted to become stronger so he wouldn't hold back his guild. Urza gazed at the expression Naruto gave her and sighed in annoyance. "Naruto, I said no because I don't want you to get hurt." Urza explained, which Naruto didn't understand. He wanted her to teach him to become stronger, so why deny him out of fear of him getting hurt? He would take any pain and any torture, so he would no longer be a burden to his guild. "That doesn't make sense. I want to get stronger so I wouldn't burden the guild, so why not train me so you wouldn't have to worry about me?" Naruto asked again, sounding more desperate than he was before. Naruto desperately stared at Urza for any change that may occur. Sadly, she shook her head in denial, denying him once again. "Naruto, you will only get hurt if I try to train you, and I don't want to hold that over my conscience," Urza said as she prepared to leave once again. She walked past Naruto, but was stopped when he grabbed her wrist. She turned around to see tears streaming down his face. "Just say it, you think I'm too weak to handle your training," Naruto said with tears streaming down his face. Urza sadly looked at him as she reached her free hand to caress Naruto's cheek, but failed to do so. He slapped it away and glared with his teary eyes. "Just say it." "Naruto, Urza began, but Naruto wasn't having another excuse from her. "Say it." "Yes. I'm sorry, but you aren't capable of handling my training methods." Urza reached her hand toward Naruto's shoulder and squeezed it. She didn't want to hurt Naruto in any way and seeing him like this hurt her emotionally. She really cared for him and always tried to look the best for him. She would have trained him, but keeping him safe and away from the fight was her best option. She walked away from him to give him some time alone. She knew it was better for him to understand that the guild was just looking out for his safety. "I'm just too weak in everyone's opinion," Naruto thought as his tearful eyes glares at the back of Fairy Tail's strongest female member. She walked with elegance and confidence, traits he so desired. "I am a nuisance, holding back the progress of Fairy Tail's journey to greatness." X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. The smile can make any situation simpler. Hi Lucy-chan. Naruto waved at the other blonde who decided to sit next to him. Naruto was sitting by the bar during the brawl that occurred when Gajul accidentally stepped on Natsu's foot. Lucy managed to evade any attacks from the guild and headed toward a safe space that was with Naruto. She smiled toward the boy as she reached out and ruffled his hair. She giggled when she saw the light blush he had and the childish glare he was giving. Hi Naruto, you're not still angry with me for not taking you with us? Lucy asked the smiling boy who couldn't look through his facade. No, I'm over it. But because we ran into some trouble, you could have been hurt if you went. Lucy said, which affected Naruto more than she realized. He kept that fake smile he was slowly becoming accustomed to, but inwardly he was feeling the effects of weakness again. Being told I'm a burden again, oh that must have been something. Naruto said as Mira walked up to him after her performance and set a bowl of ramen in front of him. She gave him a smile before going back to serve the rest of the guild. She still felt horrible for slapping him, but it was for the best. She cared for Naruto and if he got hurt, she couldn't explain the guilt she would feel. Naruto stared at the bowl as he didn't feel like eating after he heard what Master said. Makarov said that the reporter was going to come to the guild tomorrow. Naruto didn't lose his appetite due to the bad rep Fairy Tail would obvious get after Jason came. No, it was the words Jason asked him last time he saw him. Why are you so weak and in a guild like Fairy Tail? Naruto silently whispered to himself as he recalled Jason's words. He questioned that every time he is forced to only go to missions only if someone else goes with him, or when Makarov doesn't allow him to be involved in the usual Fairy Tail brawl, or when his own family unintentionally calls him weak. Did you say something, Naruto? Lucy asked, hearing Naruto whispering. Naruto turned toward Lucy a smile before standing up. Oh nothing Lucy-chan, I'm going home now. It's getting late. Naruto smiled as he turned toward the door to leave. He gave one glance toward his grandfather figure before leaving. This guild is supposed to be a family, yet he doesn't feel like he even belongs. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. One after another, they fall while you helplessly watch. Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. Laxus just announced an all-out Fairy Tail brawl for the title of strongest mage of Fairy Tail. Well, he watched one after another fall to their own allies and Naruto was forced to stay back and watch each other fight. Naruto just witnessed Masters Last Hope Grey and Elfman be defeated by both Bixlow and Evergreen. Haha. You have no one left, old man. Mystigan is nowhere to be found and Urza is in a rocky situation, haha. Laxus taunted through his thought projection. Laxus then noticed Naruto shaking next to his grandfather. Well, Fairy Tail's biggest failure. Weakest mage Fairy Tail has ever seen, Naruto Uzumaki. Laxus taunted, which Naruto glared from his spot. He knew he was weak and useless, but hearing it from the man responsible for all this pointless fighting really pissed him off. Laxus, stop this, I surrender. Makarov interrupted Laxus from insulting Naruto anymore. Naruto turned toward Makarov with a shocked expression. He couldn't believe that Makarov was actually surrendering to Laxus. Naruto tuned out the rest of the conversation as words that he heard from people before directed toward him. Weak. Useless. Worthless. Nothing. The last was the worst of them all. He remembered being called that by Natsu one time, even though Natsu was punished by Urza, it was still enough to ring in his head from time to time. He continued to look the world pass him as he helplessly continued to watch. This was the curse he will have to live with being Fairy Tail's weakest mage. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Everyone suffers physical pain, well your pain is caused by witnessing their pain. Everyone is hurt, well I'm fine because I was being a coward. Naruto whispered to himself as he sat at a table alone. Everyone in the guild that helped take down the lacrimas that powered Thunder Palace were bandaged to cover the severe burns they received from the backlash in destroying those lacrimas. Naruto turned to the right to see Mirahin walk up to him. He quickly wiped the tears that were threatening to fall down his cheeks and gave her his strained smile. She smiled toward Naruto before sitting next to him. You aren't hurt, are you? Mira asked as she scanned him for any injuries. Naruto sheepishly chuckled at her motherly personality when it came to him. He never understood it, but she acted differently toward him. You ask me if I'm hurt while you're bandaged up. I'm okay, Mira-chan. Naruto said, relieving Mira's worry. She smiled as she reached for Naruto's hand. Her thumb caressed his hand, trying to calm him down from the inner turmoil she knows he is suffering from. I know how you are feeling right now, Naruto. Mira said, getting Naruto's attention. I know you are feeling completely weak and useless. I felt the same way when I lost my sister, and I felt like that too when I watch my guild get hurt while I am unable to help them. Mira continued to explain to Naruto. Naruto was staring at her in a hopeful manner. Did she understand his pain, the feeling of weakness like he does? But you should also know how I would feel if I lose you then, right? Naruto's hope for understanding was destroyed. Mira understood that he wanted to help out and protect the guild he was raised in, but instead made him feel like he was a helpless child that needs to be taken care of his entire life. He wants to be strong, why don't they understand? Mira, I think I left my faucet running in my apartment, bye. Naruto made a fake excuse as he ran out of the guild. Mira was confused by Naruto's sudden action, but decided to ignore it. He would eventually figure out that everyone cares for Naruto and they're just looking out for him. Naruto ran until his legs gave out in an alley. He leaned against a wall as thoughts of his own weakness kept popping out of his mind. Inability to help his allies, watching people he cared for get hurt was too much for Fairy Tail's youngest mage. Dropping to his knees as one thought kept wandering more and more in his head. How do I become stronger? You will become stronger once you recognize me, when you can finally hear my voice. I want to become powerful and not be a burden to those who I partner with. Naruto said as his eyes glared at his hands. His weak pathetic hands that can't protect those he care for. I will give you the power to protect your loved ones, just hear my voice. If no one will teach me magic, then I will become strong without it. Naruto said with conviction as he clenched his weak hands and ran toward the forest. Normally Makarov would not allow him to train for fear of him getting hurt, but what they don't know won't hurt them. I will become strong without powerful spells and only with my fists. Naruto yelled as he ran faster toward the forest. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Striving for success will only lead to a road full of failure. Ha ha, if I can't do 500 push-ups, then I will do 600 squats. Naruto told himself as he struggled to finish his 400th push-up. He was going up for his 400th but fell before he can do it. He painfully inhaled for any air he can find as he stood up and prepared to do his squats. He was going to start until he heard the voice he least wanted to hear. Well, this where you've been running off. Makarov said as he walked into the clearing. He had an expression that showed that he was not happy. Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat as he stared into the eyes of Makarov. He was expected to be lectured or punished for training, but instead got a book tossed toward him. That book has some fighting styles that may be helpful. Naruto was shocked by Makarov's words and sign that he actually approves in him learning how to fight. I don't want you to feel helpless your entire life, so learning how to fight won't be that bad. Makarov began, but Naruto appeared in front of him and hugged him tightly. He spanned the short old man around as he couldn't control the joy he felt this moment. Thanks Gigi, I'll get you the next issue of that perverted book you like reading, next time I find it. Naruto yelled as Makarov patted Naruto's head as he let out a perverted giggle. He really didn't want Naruto to go out and fight strong enemies, but it was unfair to keep him from ever developing. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Hollow rocks and silk crow's caw, one is false and the other is a self-imposed illusion. It's amazing, isn't it? Wendy heard as she turned to the right to find a blonde kid in an unusual jumpsuit sitting on a chair. He was about the same age as Wendy and didn't appear to want to get involved in their scuffle. Oh hi. My name is Wendy. Wendy said as she held out her hands. Naruto smiled toward Wendy before shaking her hand. Name's Naruto Uzumaki, future S-class mage and the guy that will kick Natsu's ass. Naruto announced, getting an awe expression from Wendy. She didn't know him or anything about him, but she was interested in him. She also felt that having a friend her own age may seem like a good idea. You must be strong if you wish to fight Natsu. Wendy cheerfully said, getting a blush from Naruto. He was in that age that he has been noticing the beauty and bodies of women. After that talk with Mikao during that mission, Makarov allowed him to be taken to and the pervy book he decided to read from Makarov's collection. He couldn't help from blushing when Mira or other beautiful women from the guild get close to him or getting compliments from pretty girls around Magnolia. Well yay, I can kick Natsu's ass to the next town. Naruto stated, getting more wows from the small girl. Haha, don't joke around Naruto. You couldn't beat me if I let you give me the first punch. Naruto froze when he heard the voice of none other than Natsu behind him. Naruto turned around as he glared at the man who ruined any chance of getting a girl to actually believe he wasn't worthless. Well, I became stronger, you bastard. Naruto yelled as he stood up and got up on his face. Natsu just sneered by his words. He mockingly poked his forehead repeatedly to prove his point about him being weaker than him. Haha, I'll just have to see that myself. Natsu went to poke him again, but Naruto grabbed his arm and created a jumping cross armbar. Natsu was surprised when he unexpectedly ended in the floor with Naruto pulling his arm back, ready to break it any second. "Field," Naruto said as he pulled the arm farther back. Everyone turned to Naruto, who held Natsu in an armbar. They were laughing at Natsu as he was childishly kicking his legs to get out, but Naruto had a tight hold on his right arm. "Let go of my arm," Natsu yelled as he struggled comically. Naruto laughed as he stretched it farther before an angry Redeed walked up to them. "Naruto, let go of his arm," she said with her hands on her waist. Naruto stared at the fierce brown eyes of Urza before he let go of his arm. Natsu stood up and grabbed Naruto by his collar. Natsu pulled his arm back to punch him for surprising him. "Bastard, you surprised me." Natsu was going to punch Naruto, but Urza appeared behind Natsu and knocked him down to the floor. She then turned to Naruto before reaching her hand out toward him. Naruto closed his eyes, awaiting his inevitable fate by the redeeted enforcer of the guild. Nothing ever came, instead he felt Urza gently run her hand through his hair. He opened his eyes to see Urza gently looking at him. "Naruto, I don't want you to get in fights," Urza gently said. Naruto glared at her when he heard her words and slapped her hand away. Urza was surprised by his actions, reminding her of when Naruto asked her to train him. "I have become strong enough to take care of myself," Naruto said as he looked toward her. "Ask Mikao, he saw that I can take of myself." Urza turned toward Mikao, who rubbed the back of his head and gave a sheepish smile. "Is this true?" "Yeah, I took him to take of some bandits and was able to handle them on his own," Mikao said without making eye contact with Urza. Urza turned toward Makarov with shock when she heard this information. "Is this true, Master? You've allowed Naruto to take dangerous missions like that?" Urza dangerously asked Makarov, who was laughing nervously as he looked away. "Well, they were just bandits and Mikao was with him, so I wasn't worried of any major danger," Makarov said. "He could have still gotten hurt," Urza replied, getting Makarov to change into a more serious demeanor and slammed his mug on the table. "Urza, enough," Makarov said with authority. "I've allowed him to learn how to fight so he can defend himself. But he is stronger than he appears, Urza. He may not be able to use magic, but his spirit is strong and desires strength," Makarov said, causing Naruto to look at him with tears threatening to fall. Urza was unsure what to think, so she sighed in acceptance before giving Naruto a stern look. "I will see for myself, I'll accompany you to your next mission," Urza said in a manner that she was not asking for permission. Naruto lit up and nodded happily. "Yay, I'll show you how strong I become," Naruto happily said, causing Urza to nod with a smile. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. You seek solace in those you rely on, yet this is the source of your pain. Old man, Naruto happily said as he stood in front of Gildertz. Gildert smiled at the excited blonde before setting his hand on his head. "Seems you haven't changed much, Shrimp. You're still as short as I remembered," Gildert said, causing Naruto to give an angry look. "Don't call me short," Naruto yelled back. Gildertz laughed at him before ruffling up his hair. "I'll stop calling you Shrimp the time you start growing," Gildert said, causing a small smile to form on Naruto's face. He hated being called Shrimp or short, but he did enjoy the attention Fairy Tail's strongest mage gave him. His smile quickly began to change to a frown when he heard Gildert's next words. "Probably still need to be taken care of too." Without realizing it, Gildertz called him weak. Gildert smiled at Naruto before turning toward Master to tell him that he was leaving home early to rest. Master nodded toward Gildertz, which he replied with his own nod. He then told Natsu to meet him at his house later before leaving. Naruto stared at the retreating form of Gildertz as his words began ringing in his mind again. He clenched his hands before heading out to train again. "I am not as weak as you remember, old man." X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Reunion with the dead can lead to many events. "Lisanna," Naruto yelled with tears in his eyes as he hugged Lisanna tightly. Lisanna smiled at the blonde boy tightly hugging her. "It's good to see you too, Naruto," Lisanna softly said, causing Naruto to blush by her beautiful smile. "How did you get here? Are you a zombie? Where did the black cat come from? Do I get bad luck if it walks by me?" Naruto bombarded Lisanna with questions. Well, I don't know if I'm a zombie, let me find out," Lisanna said as she tried to bite Naruto. Naruto blushed by this and pushed her back. "Lisanna, I'm little anymore, you know, I'm a teenager now," Naruto said with his blush still visible. Lisanna laughed at this and stood high in front of him. "Well, it doesn't appear that you've grown much since I last saw you," Lisanna joked around, causing Naruto to give a small glare directed toward her. Naruto began to argue with Lisana about his height, which Lisana responded with a cocky grin and her own comeback. Their argument caused others around them to laugh, remembering how they always acted since they were younger. Lucy noticed this and asked Gray, who was sitting next to her. Were they always this close? Lucy asked Gray, who gave a nod. Yeah, since they first met, Lisana always babied Naruto. When she disappeared, Naruto was the guy who was by Mira's side during her grievance. Gray informed, causing Lucy to nod in understanding. She smiled toward the young blonde who can't help but make people like him. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X. Your heart can only withstand so much before you break down. Master is choosing who is participating this year. Naruto said with so much excitement as Wendy looked at him with a smile. She became close with the blonde since they were so close to the same age. She could even say she developed a sort of small crush on him. Like the old man would even consider you. Wendy's cat companion said with a slight glare. Naruto glared back at Carla. I so can be an S-class mage. Naruto yelled back. Aren't mages supposed to wield magic, you dimwit? Carla replied. Carla, that was mean. Wendy told her companion, getting Carla to cross her arms and look the other way. Hockey cat, I should get a dog to teach you a lesson, Naruto whispered to himself. His demeanor changed back to that of excitement when he heard Makarov. Attention. Makarov said loudly from a stage he stood with Urza, Mira and Gilderts. Since long ago, this has become Fairy Tail's custom, and now Makarov looked at the crowd of mages awaiting Makarov's announcement. The announcement of the participants of the S-class trials. The venue of this year's trials will be in Fairy Tail's Holy Land, Tenru Island. Makarov said, getting several gasps from the guild. Strength, heart, soul, I've been watching for each of these things this past year. Makarov said with clenched fist. There will be 8 participants in this year's trials. Natsu Dragneel. Natsu perked up when he heard this. Gray Fullbuster. Gray gave a cool smirk when he heard this. Juvia Lockster. Juvia looked surprised that they picked her. Elfman. Elfman gave his own smirk and went on about him having to be S-class to be a true man. Kana Alberona. Kana didn't appear to be happy about her name being called. Fried Justine. Fried gave a confident look as he talked about being worthy of replacing Laxus. Levi McGarden. Levi smiled at Makarov's announcement of her name as Jet and Droy gave shouts of encouragement. Mest Grider. Mest had a confident look as people around him talked about him being close last year. Naruto stood still as the people around him sulked or either congratulated the mages who were chosen. Naruto walked forward until he was in front of the stage. Makarov noticed this and stared down at Naruto. Master Naruto began to talk but stopped when Makarov sighed in annoyance. Look, I know you want to be an S-class mage and actually became proficient in hand-to-hand combat, but you still aren't ready. Makarov explained but was taken back when Naruto gave him a sad smile. Did you even consider me? Naruto sadly asked, getting the attention of everyone around. Urza walked up to him and gave him a warm smile. Naruto being S-class is no laughing matter, you just aren't ready. Urza said. Naruto ignored her as he continued to look at Makarov. Was I even a choice? Naruto asked again. No. Master turned away from Naruto and walked away from Naruto. Naruto looked down for a bit until Natsu appeared next to him and wrapped his arm around his neck. Aha, did you really think you would be a S-class mage before me? Natsu said in a joking manner that caused Naruto to look at him. Natsu then said something unintentionally that would be the straw to break the camel's back. Besides, you're too weak to be S-class. Weak. Naruto kept hearing the word repeat itself in his head. Elfman also walked up to him and patted his head. I agree, you're not strong enough to be in the S-class trials. Not strong. Naruto couldn't help but keep hearing more about his weakness floating around in his head. Mikao walked up to him too and gave his own words. You learn to take yourself against some bandits, but S-class is something else, kid. Just be happy that Master didn't consider you, you could have really got hurt. HN, imagine if that kid got picked in the S-class trial before us. Naruto heard some other members talk about him. Yay, that wouldn't look good for our reputation. Another mage said as he and his friend laughed about it. Why is his still part of the guild again, he can't form any strong spells. One female mage said from the table she was sitting at. He's only in the guild because Master raised him. Another person said. He shouldn't even be here. He's too weak. He's unqualified. I shouldn't even be here, Naruto thought in his mind. He turned around when he saw Wendy walk up to him and set her hand on his shoulder. She was giving him a sad look that made Naruto feel like shit. Wendy started speaking, but Naruto put up the mask he'd been used to for so many years. He gave his fake smile as he laughed about the whole situation and brought up his hands and put them behind his head. I'll have to wait for next year. Naruto said with his forced smile, causing Wendy to smile back at him. I'm going home early, I have a limited edition instant ramen at my house, waiting to be eaten. Naruto said as he ran out of the guild. Wendy looked at Naruto's running form with a sad smile. She knew he was forcing the smile, since she did the same. She was completely sad about losing her guild, but so Carla would not worry, she forced a smile. Don't worry Naruto, next time we will both be stronger. Wendy thought in her mind as she gave a confident smile. Wendy didn't notice Carla looking at Naruto with a feared look. She gained a vision of the whole guild in their knees as a humanoid dragon descended from the sky. He had black scales that radiated black energy, his sharp slitted blue eyes staring down at them. Next thing she saw was a giant explosion. Later that night. This will be my last night as a fairy tale mage huh? Naruto said to himself as he looked at the retreating form of Magnolia Town from the distance. He sat behind a wagon filled with hay belonging to a farmer who was nice of him to let him hitch a ride. Naruto had a bag next to him and a black sealed book Makarov once said was found with him when he found Naruto. He never understood what was within the book, but since it seemed important, he took it with him. Grandpa, Wendy, Urza, Mira, Lisana and even Yunatsu, I'll miss all you guys. Naruto said quietly to himself as he closed his eyes and let slumber take him. Sleep took him again that he didn't notice a black energy force around his book and a seal formed around his stomach. Morning. Ramen. Naruto yelled as he stood up instantly. He looked around to see that the old man who was nice enough to take him with him was cooking breakfast. He laughed at his enthusiasm and put 2 eggs on a plate. Naruto let some drool escape his lips as he stared down at the food before him. Thanks old man. Naruto said as he grabbed the food. The old farmer laughed at his attitude and the way he called him. Is that your usual way you thank someone? He asked causing Naruto to look at him and give a laugh. He will have you back soon old man. Naruto said as he gave the old man a smile. The old man laughed at Naruto and stood up to check on the status of his wagon, but fate had different plans. A giant snake appeared from the earth and launched him in the sky. Naruto looked on with horror as the giant snake opened his mouth and devoured him. Old man. Naruto yelled with horror as the snake chomped down at the man, causing blood to slid down the corner of its mouth. Naruto became even more afraid when he saw the snake look at him this time. His tongue flicking forward as he lowered his head, as if ready to strike at Naruto. Naruto stood there frozen with fear as the snake lunged forward. The snake didn't make it far because a brown-haired girl jumped out of a tree and landed on its head. She pulled a katana out of its sheath and dug it deep inside its head. The snake thrashed around to get the girl off its head, but she stood there tightly. She continued to stab it deeper as it continued to thrash. The snake brought its head up one time, before crashing down in front of Naruto. She pulled her sword out of its head as she stared down at Naruto. Cool. Naruto thought as he saw the woman who saved her life. She jumped off from the snake and appeared in front of Naruto. Are you okay? She asked with such a calm composure that Naruto was just thinking of how cool she was. Whoa, you're so cool. What's your name miss? Naruto said with a fanboyish manner. My name is Kagura. She calmly said. She was completely taken off guard when Naruto went down on his knees. Kagura-sama, may I become your student? Naruto asked with a respectful manner. And? You wish to become my student? Kagura asked Naruto, who was kneeling in front of her. Yes, Kagura-sama. Naruto said respectfully. Kagura's cold eyes stared down at the kneeling Naruto before turning away to leave. No. Kagura bluntly said as she prepared to continue on with her journey. Naruto looked up with shock before standing up and running in front of Kagura. Why not? Naruto asked with a near childish manner. Kagura looked down at the shorter Naruto. I have bigger priorities than taking you in as my student. Kagura said again as she tried to walk past Naruto. Naruto stepped in front of her again as he gave her a rare stern look. You probably believe that I am weak and do not deserve to be your student, but I swear at everything I believe in, I would not be a nuisance if you take me. Naruto gave a stern look. Kagura stared at the hardened blue eyes of Naruto as she gave him her answer. It has nothing to do with your skills, I just have other priorities. Kagura said with a calm tone. I'm searching for my brother and taking you as my student will only slow me down. But I promise that I won't. Please believe me. Naruto pleaded. Kagura just stared at his eyes, unsure why he was so persistent. I respect your persistence, but my answer is still the same. Kagura walked past Naruto and followed the road toward the next town. Naruto wasn't gonna give up, so he ran toward the wagon from the now deceased farmer and grabbed his stuff. He gave a quick word, silently thanking the old man for his hospitality and promised him one last thing before following Kagura. I will pay you back one day old man, one way or another. Naruto pulled a flower from the ground and set on a tree before setting 3 stones down. He then ran up the road to catch up to Kagura. He noticed her walking with a calm aura around her as she gently hummed a tune. Oh wow, that's a pretty sound Kagura-sama. Naruto said from behind her. Kagura stopped her humming and looked over her shoulders to find a grinning Naruto. I told you I won't take you as my student. The swordswoman said coldly, involuntarily getting Naruto to shiver. I just happened to go the same way as you, Kagura-sama. Naruto said with a sheepish smile as he walked behind her with his arms behind his head. Kagura cold stoic eyes stared at Naruto's before looking back forward. I would appreciate if you stop calling me in such a manner. Kagura said. But that title suits someone as pretty and strong as you, unless you want me to call you Kagura-sensei. Naruto said with another sheepish smile. Kagura actually let her emotions show as she sighed with annoyance. Your persistence is more annoying than admirable. Kagura continued to take the passage toward the next town before deciding to question Naruto's eagerness to learn from her. What is your name, boy? Naruto Uzumaki, at your service. Naruto said loudly, causing Kagura to give an annoyed glare for his optimism. Naruto gave a sheepish laugh as he noticed the glare from Kagura. Naruto, aren't you too hyperactive for what you just witnessed? Kagura questioned as she witnessed what happened earlier. She was too late to save the old man who was devoured by the giant beast. She didn't understand the boy in front of him as he kept smiling like nothing happened when he just witnessed someone get killed. Well, the old man was very nice and liked to smile a lot, so I don't want to disrespect him by crying or frowning. Naruto said with a smile. Kagura stopped walking and turned toward Naruto. That's when she noticed his smile was a mask to hide his real emotions. She knew because her calm composure was also a mask to hide what she really was feeling. So you force a smile for the man you witnessed get killed. Was he close to you? Kagura asked, curious if the reason he kept smiling was because that elderly man was his grandfather or someone close to him. Well, I just met him yesterday, he allowed to hitch a ride with him. Naruto said, causing Kagura to look at him with pure shock. She was able to see through his forced smile because she could understand him, but someone else would have not noticed. This is not the first time you forced a smile for someone else. Kagura said to Naruto. No, it's not. I used to force a smile all the time in my former guild. People would worry less about me if I smile at them, so it was just easier to hide a smile than to reveal what you truly are feeling. Naruto said as he stared at Kagura. You should know the feeling, I can tell your calm demeanor is only a facade you formed to hide yourself. Kagura's eyes widened in shock by Naruto's words as it quickly formed into a demanding glare. I'm not trying to hide anything. Kagura said with a slight tone that promised someone may get hurt if he continued. Naruto ignored this as he gave his thesis about her. You can try to hide it as much as you want from me, but your eyes tell your whole story. Naruto said as he stepped forward, standing couple inches shorter than her. He stared deeply in her eyes as he continued from what he was saying. I can see through your eyes that you are really lonely, some sort of loneliness that you had for a long time. You probably wish to find your brother because he is the only one you have and you are tired of being alone. Kagura pulled out her blade and pointed it at Naruto's neck. I warn you, shut up. I also understand why you don't try to get rid of this loneliness by interacting with others, it's because you are scared. Naruto jumped back as he dodged a horizontal slash directed toward his neck. Kagura fractured the remains of the mask of emotion she had in place as she glared deeply at Naruto and purposely tried to hurt him. Naruto noticed this and continued to dodge the many attempts by the swordswoman as he continued to talk. Are you scared that people would leave you again if they tried to get close to you? Shut up. Kagura screamed as he continued to dodge more slashes. Naruto was getting lucky as he barely was able to dodge her, mostly thanks to the small sessions of training by Makarov. Why are you afraid of letting people in? Naruto screamed back, but this time luck was not on his side. Naruto tripped and fell back as Kagura headed toward him. Naruto stared at the tip of the blade as Kagura stared down at him. Naruto would have been a blushing mess by the weird predicament they were in if it was not for the blade between his eyes. Kagura sat on top of the young teenager's abdomen to keep him in place as her free hand was on top of his left pec. I don't trust people easily, people are not as trustworthy as they let out to be. Those were Kagura's words as she stood up from Naruto's abdomen and gave one last glance toward Naruto. I would advise you not to follow me if you desired your life. But that, Kagura sheathed her blade and decided to take a passage off the road. Naruto stared at the retreating form of Kagura with a frown. He didn't believe what she said since he could tell it was a lie. He could tell she was afraid of something deeper than just what she let out. Aside from her stubborn attitude of letting her emotions free as he stood up and picked up his belongings. Well, I'm not different. He checked if all his belongings were not damaged during that little scuffle. That is when he noticed something off. The black book he has been carrying has changed appearance. The fabric has become different as it appeared to look more like that of a reptilian skin. That strange letters that were on the front cover were no longer there as the only thing there was a strange jewel that appeared as a snake's eye. It was a golden color as a black slit ran down the middle. Naruto stared at it with awe as he couldn't help but be mesmerized by such a thing. You are still unable to hear me, even though it is weakened. Wow, that is so cool. Naruto said as his hand caressed the weird jewel in the front cover of the book. He wanted to learn why this happened, but quickly looked away from the book when he heard a scream. Naruto looked toward the direction of the scream and realized that is where Kagura left to. He put the book back inside his bag and ran toward the scream. He ran as fast as he can until he saw something he never saw before. A strange beast that had the characteristics of 3 different animals roared as he slowly stalked toward Kagura, who was against a tree with a heavily wounded shoulder. The beast had the head and body of a lion, muscular legs of a goat, and a thick purple snake's tail slowly moving behind him. Naruto also noticed scars connected the many animals' parts that made him believe that it wasn't born like this. Naruto quickly jumped into action when he saw the hybrid beast spring itself toward the injured Kagura. Once it was going to reach the injured Kagura, Naruto appeared and kicked it away. Naruto, Kagura weakly said before crying out in pain. Naruto turned toward her to see what appeared to be signs of poisoning. He was about to check on her and see if he can stop the bleeding, but he had to stay on guard when he heard a loud roar from the strange beast. He jumped away from Kagura so the beast would not try to attack her. Stop. That thing is too strong. Kagura tried to warn Naruto, but he was not going to take being called weak again. He gave Kagura a small smirk and a thumbs up before calmly taking a stance. I never really explained who I really am, Kagura. I am Naruto Uzumaki, a mage who can barely wield magic. Kagura's eyes widened in horror when she heard this and wanted to scream for him to get away, but the beast has waited long enough and jumped to attack. Naruto patiently waited for the beast to come close enough until he brought his hands down and launched himself up. He pulled his right leg back before sending a hard kick down to its head. He then launched himself away and to the other side. I'm not able to wield magic properly, but I am not weak. The beast regained its composure before opening its jaws toward Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw the hybrid of a beast spit fire out of its mouth. Naruto narrowly dodged the fire thanks to his small training sessions involving his reflexes and muscle memory to immediate danger. Naruto then had to duck when the beast's tail came darting toward Naruto. He then jumped away when the tail crashed down toward the young blonde. He was then surprised when a fireball went flying toward him in his small state of surprise. He crossed his arms in front of him as he knew he was unable to dodge this time. Naruto. Kagura cried out when she saw get hit by the fire. They died down to see Naruto with his hands in front of him, severely burned. The sleeves of his orange jumpsuit were burned off as he took the full force of the attack. Naruto didn't have time to relax as his leg was grabbed by the tail and thrown toward a tree. His back hit the tree hard as he was thrown with such force. Ah, damn it, that hurt. Naruto said as he tried to stand up again. He was thinking that he probably bruised or broken a couple of ribs. He stood up with a bunch of pain circulating around his body as he stared at the beast before him. He wasn't going to give up and prove to everyone he was weak, he would defeat it even if he would die in the process. He was going to prepare himself again until Kagura threw a rock toward the beast, trying to provoke it. Naruto turned toward Kagura who had a pale complexion due to the heavy blood loss. Her hand shook as she held a katana ready to fight the beast, even though the way her body was moving was denying her the chance to fight. Kagura, stop. I can take care of it. Naruto screamed toward Kagura, but she angered the beast. It ran toward Kagura with inhuman speed and appeared before her. Kagura ignored the pain as she sidestepped away from the beast's strike and attempted to strike its legs, deciding to disable its use of its legs. She would have been successful, but the beast was actually faster. It stopped the blade by biting down on the blade, using its powerful sharp teeth to break it in half. Kagura was shocked by its actions, she didn't notice it pulling its tail back. Naruto watched in horror as Kagura was thrown away by the beast. She crashed into a tree a couple feet from him. Helpless. Naruto stared at Kagura, who gave him a weak glance. She reached out her hands toward Naruto and gave him a weak smile. Hopeless. Naruto reached out his own hand as he let his mask break, showing his emotions. Tears streaming down his eyes as his lips quivered in fear. Weak. Naruto tried to walk toward her as he tried to reach her in time. He wanted to help her in any way he can, even though what she said earlier. He didn't know why, but he didn't want to see her in pain. He didn't want to lose another person in this cruel world. He was only a few feet away from her as he continued to walk toward her, but the world became quiet from what happened next. Kagura was consumed by the bright flames of the hybrid of a beast. The flame consumed everything as the leaves burned with the skin of the beautiful Kagura. The flames died down to show the flawless skin of Kagura, severely burned. He stopped breathing for a minute as he saw this, and that's when he saw it, pure darkness. So you finally heard my voice. The pitch-black energy consumed him as it brought a heavy air to the surrounding. The beast took several steps back when he sensed the feelings of pure negativity in the air. The energy that surrounded the blonde mage began to take a more human form before 2 wings shot out. The black energy began to be absorbed into the skin as it showed the figure within. The new figure opened its eyes, showing it to be that of a reptilian. Its lidded golden eyes stared around until it saw its prey. It licked its lips in delight as he hungrily looked at the beast. It opened its mouth as he let out a deafening roar. RHHH. And? What is this place? Naruto gently said as he stared at the pitch-white sky with a black sun. He noticed he was laying on a liquid of some sort that made his body cringe from the negative feeling it was letting out. Naruto sat up from the shallow pool of liquid as he stared at his surroundings. He saw the liquid to be clear like water that reached only a couple of inches from the ground. He also noticed black petals floated on the liquid calmly as it had not been affected by the negative energy around them. Those are petals from the tree of beginning. A deep powerful voice came to exist. Naruto turned around to find a giant reptilian creature with black scales and a silver underbelly. The creature had giant pair of wings that had many tears, acting more like scars he received during his lifetime. The wings were giant as they would have caused a great shadow over Naruto if it wasn't for the world they resided on. He had giant slitted eyes that appeared as a black tear ripped through a pool of a golden ocean. One of these eyes had a giant claw mark running down to his maw. His fangs were as sharp as it was able to shred through the toughest steel with ease. Naruto shook in fear by the mere presence of such majestic yet devastating beast, and his legs near gave out as the creature opened its mouth, letting a dark mist-like substance escape the corner of its lips. They gently float down the river of time as they await their ending to appear. Naruto sat there paralyzed by the mere presence of the black dragon as the beast stared down back at the child. He continued to tremble as he wished to question his whereabouts, but the dragon was able to answer it before he asked. You are inside your very soul, where I currently reside. The enormous beast explained as it brought his head down, low enough for Naruto to stand before his very eye. Naruto became even more terrified until he saw its image begin to distort. Our souls are linked as are our emotions. Your rage was enough to not only summon my power, you were able to harness and fuse with it. Naruto watched from the eyes of his outside self that appeared to be a dragon humanoid. Black energy surrounded him as he stared up at the hybrid creature who laid those scarring burn marks on Kagura. What is going on? Naruto questioned the dragon within his soul. He opened his mouth as he explained the situation happening back in reality. You are seeing the outside world through our eyes where I will take control this once and show you my power firsthand. The dragon said as Naruto noticed what was happening outside. Real world. The black dragonoid figure said as the black energy under him still began moving as grass in the breeze. His appearance has changed drastically as his small structure changed from a short 5'2" to that of a 6-foot-tall male. His physical physique was not scrawny like before but that of an athletic young man. Most of his skin was covered by black dragon scales that acted more like an armor that allowed easy movement. He had a pair of black wings that looked unable to fly but did without its intrusion. A black and gray mask with long horns on the top covered his face, only allowing his slitted golden eyes to appear. He had a blood-red jewel embedded on the top center of the mask that had an ominous feeling radiating out of it. To finish the body of the new Naruto laid a star of evil over his waist and on top of both of his hands. Naruto brought his hand over his mask as he roughly grabbed where his mouth should be. The Chimera watched in caution as Naruto dug into his mask before roughly opening it. Naruto let out toxic black haze leave his mouth as a now long tongue licked his now sharp teeth. The Chimera was tired of this waiting as he opened his mouth. Giant balls of fire shot out of the beast's mouth as Naruto stared patiently for the fire to reach him. Naruto sucked in his breath before releasing his own breath. The ball of black energy shot out of its breath as it split through the giant ball of fire and hit the Chimera. The black energy then surrounded the hybrid beast, causing beastly cries of agony escape its mouth. It roared many times as it started acting erratically. The black energy did not appear to cause any burns or wounds, but the Chimera was acting differently. The first sign physical damage occurred when the corner of the Chimera's lips were letting a black liquid drop. Then the same black liquid fell from its snout and then its eyes. The beast then stopped thrashing around as it fell forward and without moving, signaling that it has fallen. Inside their soul. What happened? Naruto asked in shock as he saw the creature that was literally beating him be so easily killed by one move, an attack that looked so similar to Natsu's move, yet so different at the same time. That is my power that is beyond that of mortals. The black dragon said as Naruto now watched his outside self turn to Kagura. Naruto cringed in horror as he saw the severity of the burns, yet that quickly changed to alarm. The dragon noticed this and told the 13-year-old boy to relax. Relax child, I not only hold power to destroy, I also hold power to heal. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw black energy arise from the floor and carry up Kagura. The energy engulfed her as Naruto became worried, but saw the energy slowly reside and show her clear skin, free from the ugly burns from before. The energy gently set Kagura on the floor as Naruto watched that she looked completely free from the burn marks and appeared to be free from the Chimera's poison. Naruto was amazed by the power he had and asked the beast a question. "Wait, how were you able to fight outside and talk to me at the same time?" Naruto asked the gigantic dragon, completely forgetting how terrified he was of it a few minutes ago. "My mind is far more developed than you feeble humans, so it does not trouble me doing multiple things at once." The beast explained as the image in his eyes returned to those of a predator. Naruto jumped back by the sudden change, but returned to his cheery self as he brought both arms behind his back and stared at the creature. The dragon was surprised by this boy's actions as he decided to question him. "Why aren't you shaking in fear like you were before? Do you not fear me?" "First of all, I was not scared when I saw you." Naruto then began to sheepishly rub the back of his head and gave a nervous chuckle. "I was just surprised, that's all. I am a being beyond that of this world. I have seen and smelled fear from those I called allies and those I call enemies, so do not try to hide your fear from me." The black dragon said as Naruto turned away and mumbled stubbornly how he was not afraid. The dragon continued to stare down at the human before him as he continued to press his question. "So tell me why you have stopped fearing me?" Well, you don't appear to want to eat me, and you actually helped me out." So Naruto gave another nervous chuckle as he finally returned his gaze toward the dragon. "You're okay in my book." "Interesting response," the beast said as he stared at the kid he has been trapped in for nearly 13 years. He continued to stare at the boy as memories of how those two have been brought together passed through his mind. A day he labeled as eternal prison. Flashback. July 18, X 398. Their presence is a nuisance, Labyrinth. Acnologia screamed from across the scattered destruction he personally created. He stared across at the other black-scaled dragon, who was said to be one of the strongest dragons to ever exist. Labyrinth's eyes calmly stared across the field he was forced to stay in. Normally he would tear a passage in space to travel away from this annoying squabble his race was causing, but he would always be found by this particular dragon. He knew of him and even had times where he would be watching this dragon kill all of his kind. He never really cared for these petty wars that always started by different ideals, so he refused to join in, albeit request from the pro-human commander and the commander of the anti-human unit. He was also not surprised to see humans turn their backs on those that gave them that power, since he knew the greed all life forms possess. "You are informed of my presence, yet I have not shown myself in this war of yours." Well, when you have weak dragons begging for their lives, they begin to talk of how their savior Labyrinth will come and kill me. So I forced them to tell me of you. Acnologia said as he prepared to fight the dragon many have called his death. Labyrinth seemed uninterested by Acnologia claims as he stood on his 2 feet and slightly opened his mouth, letting out that dark mist escape the corner of its mouth. "You destroy more lives just to know of me, you are truly a pitiful creature." Sagrant said as his shadow began to move around. Acnologia sneered as his indirect jab toward him as he prepared to strike the dragon who may actually satisfy his bloodlust. He crouched to launch, but the shadows below Labyrinth rose from the ground and latched around Acnologia's giant form. He was then completely taken off guard when Acnologia easily broke off the shadows and slammed him down with his claws. Is this really the final hope dragons prayed for? Acnologia taunted before he was swatted away by Labyrinth's long-scaled tail. Acnologia dug his feet deep into the earth as he clamped down his claws onto the tail. Acnologia threw him with his power, but was surprised when a black rift appeared before him causing him to disappear. Another rift opened over Acnologia, leading to Labyrinth landing on him. He used his tail to wrap around his neck as he held him down into the earth. "Let your death satisfy the souls you sent to the afterlife." Labyrinth was about to finish Acnologia off. Acnologia used the strength he gained to throw Labyrinth off. Labyrinth recovered from being thrown off as he opened his mouth and began powering up one of his attacks. Labyrinth shot out his attack which Acnologia did not attempt to dodge. He spread his arms as he took the attack directly. An attack that was supposed to attack directly the soul of its enemies failed to achieve its purpose. The attack died down as Acnologia looked unaffected. "How?" Labyrinth questioned as he didn't understand how Acnologia was unaffected. Labyrinth had to ignore his questioning because Acnologia launched himself toward Labyrinth. He sidestepped, but Acnologia grabbed him with tail and took him to the air. Labyrinth used both his hands to grab his tail and stopped him from flying higher. Acnologia dug his claws deep into his face before clawing down his left eye. Labyrinth held his eye in pain, but Acnologia used that moment to strike again. He punched Labyrinth down causing Labyrinth to fall, but Acnologia wasn't letting that. He grabbed Labyrinth's left leg before launching him up. Acnologia flew up to headbutt his abdomen, but Labyrinth recovered as he used his power to distort the air. Acnologia slowed down by the heavy pressure he was feeling before Labyrinth struck Acnologia with his tail. Acnologia recovered easily but was surprised when he found himself surrounded by a deep black mist. Labyrinth stared down at the heavy black mist he created before he began gathering energy in his mouth again. This time the energy sphere was different as it had a lighter core surrounded by an ominous black energy again. Another rift appeared in front of Labyrinth again as he prepared to end Acnologia. Acnologia tried to escape the black mist, but everything he did prevented him from leaving or expelling the mist. Acnologia then was able to see rifts appear again through this deep mist again. He saw many of them before his mind comprehended what Labyrinth was doing. He was too late as he was consumed by the giant explosion Labyrinth created. Labyrinth flew farther away as the mid-air explosion consumed a huge distance and even consumed more of the earth than he expected. The silent destruction of the blast created a new scar on this earth as it consumed every living thing in its radius. Labyrinth stared in anticipation as the blast began contracting. "The beast able to handle my power," Labyrinth whispered as he watched Acnologia standing on the earth with burn marks around him. They were not severe, but it still appeared to damage him. Acnologia didn't show much reaction as he just opened its mouth to speak. "You're the one I've been seeking for," Acnologia said as he found what no other being has been able to do, damage him. He always seeked for a being who can match him in power and strength, and now he believes he has found that being. Acnologia stared up at Labyrinth as he prepared for this fight to continue. Acnologia shot toward the sky as Labyrinth shot down. Labyrinth's body was surrounded by black energy as he headed toward Acnologia. Acnologia took the attack straight ahead before digging his claws into the sides of Labyrinth's scales. Acnologia had to let go as he felt the air pressure intensify again causing him falter. Labyrinth grabbed his tail from below and span him around before launching him toward the earth. Acnologia again recovered before he crashed, but Labyrinth used another rift in space to travel next to him and bite him on his left shoulder, tearing through his hard skin. "Ah!" Acnologia yelled in pain as for the first time, he discovered that his skin was not indestructible as he thought. The teeth of this godly creature dug deep into the thought to be impenetrable scales of Acnologia before Labyrinth ripped that piece in his mouth off Acnologia. Labyrinth spit out the piece of muscle from Acnologia before being stricken by Acnologia. Labyrinth prepared to open another rift to travel another way, but couldn't as he felt the Etheranos in the air be absorbed elsewhere. Labyrinth was taken by surprise when magic surrounded Acnologia's right arm before striking Labyrinth's chest. He was sent back by the incredible force of pure Etheranos. Acnologia appeared over him as he stomped down over his head down into the earth. Labyrinth felt Etheranos in the air again as he quickly acted and opened a rift under him. Another rift opened in the air as Labyrinth and Acnologia's right foot traveled into the new spot. Labyrinth quickly closed the rift, ripping Acnologia's right foot off of him. Acnologia cried in pain as heavy bleeding was caused by the loss of a body part. Anger quickly became the dominant emotion as he flew up into the sky as he absorbed the Etheranos in the air again. Labyrinth was hit by the attack directly again before Acnologia grabbed his tail before he was launched away again and pulled him toward Acnologia. He used his power to power up his arms before striking him down. Labyrinth crashed into the earth, creating another huge crater. Labyrinth didn't have time to anguish in the pain as he felt the same instability of Etheranos again as they were absorbed away from their natural flow. Labyrinth stared up as he watched Acnologia began to gather magic into his mouth. "He is going to roar," Labyrinth thought as pain was felt around his body as he removed himself out of the earth. Pain, a once foreign feeling to him, was now possible by a creator beyond his expectations. He was unable to use the Etheranos in the air to create another rift and he highly doubted he would be able to escape his roar. "I never thought I would find a creature to match me in power." His body still ached in pain as he prepared for his end. "Guess you truly deserve to take my long life away from me. If you truly are the one I've been seeking, you should survive my roar." Acnologia thought as he gained enough power to power up his roar. He sent a giant wave of power originating from his mouth. A great explosion occurred, overshadowing the earlier one by Labyrinth. The explosion was mass and a demented way of art in its own form. The light died down as Acnologia descended toward the earth. Any trace of Labyrinth was gone as he tried to find his smell. As he understood that the fight was finished, he finally dropped down to his knees and roared in pain by the loss of his right foot and his left shoulder. His blood stained the floor, still losing blood. "Bastard, I find someone worthy and he ends up losing this easily." Acnologia let out as he moved his head to the side as he stared down the puddle of his own blood. He screamed up at the sky in more pain and anguish by the pain he was feeling. October 10x 198. "Where am I?" Labyrinth thought as he groggily looked around. It was a blur to him, but he was able to see a transparent blue around him and walls that had what appeared to be eyes constructed in them. His vision readjusted again as he was able to recall what he was seeing. Behind these transparent blue walls stood a bandaged old man with cloaked men wearing masks behind him. He appeared to smile at him before telling his cloaked subordinates to do something. Labyrinth stood up from the floor and tried to figure out where he was. He clenched his body as he felt pain run through his body again. My body has yet to heal, even with my regeneration ability. These humans have imprisoned me. Labyrinth thought as his memories have returned. He used his own life force as the base of a spell that leaps through timelines. This was a stain to his pride as he recalled nearly being killed by a former human. He guessed that since his body would be weak using his power that these humans captured him while he was unresponsive. Labyrinth reached toward the transparent walls before retracting it when he felt a shock feeling go through its body. Labyrinth ignored the pain as he looked down at the human who looked up at him. Labyrinth was unable to hear his words, but he was able to read his lips. He didn't know how far he jumped forward, but it appeared that this generation still spoke a language he understood. You are finally awake, dragon. Labyrinth was able to read those words coming out of his mouth. He figured that these walls were meant to keep him captive while they tried to control him, like typical power-hungry beings would do. They also were able to rid the Etheranos from my captive space as well. Labyrinth watched as the cloaked figures returned with a small child with black hair, being forcefully brought here by a pair of chains. The child was crying for his mother as they brought him in front of his captive space. The child was pulled into a magic circle that prevented him from leaving. They released the chains as the kid tried to run away, but an invisible wall prevented his escape. He pleaded for help as the magic circle lighted up, as well as the transparent walls. Labyrinth was focused on the lightened walls before dropping down and roaring in pain. Lord Danzo, this child is not compatible with its power. One cloaked subordinate in front of computer said. Danzo waved his hand for his subordinates to continue trying to seize the power he sensed when he first found the dragon. The power that opened a tear in the sky. Danzo stared at the child as he screamed in agonizing pain as blood began to leak through openings in his body. The screams began to die down as the magic circle and transparent barrier did as well. Another failure. Danzo whispered as he watched the child drop. Danzo actually believed this child to be the one who would be able to handle this dragon's power. He was born with large amount of magic and he was also had it in his genes, son of an S-class mage after all. Sir, we were also able to get a hold of the illegitimate son of Minato. A subordinate of Danzo said. Danzo was taken by surprise by this as he didn't know Minato impregnated a woman during his reign as village leader. He has a child. Danzo asked as he recalled Minato and his accomplishments before his assassination. Yes, his mother was Kushina Uzumaki, last member of the Uzumaki clan. Danzo immediately asked them to bring him the child once he heard his lineage. Uzumakis were born with sturdy bodies that are able to handle the immense power they are born with. Also knowing the facts that he also shared the genes of Minato Namikaze was just the icing of it all. His subordinates returned with a small newborn in one of their arms. He is a newborn? Danzo questioned as he stared at the baby before him. He was still sleeping, unaware what his destiny will resolve. Yes, his mother died giving birth and we took him when he was still in care. Danzo was taken back by the news that this child's mother died during childbirth, even with her genetics. He ordered his subordinates to clean up the magic circle and set the newborn down. His underlings complied as they removed the other boy's body before setting the baby down. Labyrinth regained himself as he watched them set down another sacrifice. The lights and pain returned as everything else went blank for Labyrinth. Flashback end. Boy, you done spacing out. Naruto had his hands cupped in front of his mouth as he tried to get the dragon's attention. Labyrinth stared down at Naruto as he was done thinking of what he recalled of his past before being sealed away. So you returned, now can you tell me how to get out of here? Naruto said loudly as the dragon brought his head down. It was good talking to you and all, but I need to check on Kagura-sama. You will not be able to return for 2 or 3 days. Labyrinth said, causing Naruto to begin to whine. Naruto was unaware, but once he had healed Kagura, his body fell into a resting state after being introduced to his power again. Why? Naruto questioned Labyrinth, who gave him the reason why. Your body has been reintroduced to my power since being sealed away from it, so it has to adjust. I can't be asleep for that long, Kagura-sama will be in danger if I don't look after her. Naruto yelled as he began moving back and forward with his hands on his head. This boy is worried over the other human rather than that of his physical state. Labyrinth thought as Naruto stopped moving around and stared back at the dragon. Oh, I should also ask you if you know who Igneel is. My friend Natsu been looking for him for years and I guess you dragons should also know the other dragons, right? Naruto assumed as he asked Labyrinth. I know of him, but being sealed prevents me from knowing his whereabouts. Labyrinth informed Naruto, who rubbed the back of his head as he remembered that the dragon was sealed inside him. Anyway, what's your name? Naruto asked as he decided that since he will not be able to wake up for some while he should know about the being sealed in him, maybe see if he knows about his past. I have many names, human child, but my most used is Labyrinth. He informed Naruto, who was now sitting down with his legs crossed in front of him. That's not going to work, how about something else? Something more cool, Naruto asked as he stood up and pointed at Labyrinth. And what do you wish to call me? Labyrinth questioned. Well, I don't know right now, but it'll come to me. Naruto said as he sat back down. Labyrinth continued to stare at the child with interest. This child not only acted naive to the power he was introduced to, but his body was still able to handle his power. Who truly are you? Wait. I just realized you're the reason I couldn't use magic all this time. Naruto pointed at the dragon, realizing it after a while being with the dragon. I have no knowledge on the seal they used. Labyrinth said as Naruto sighed in annoyance. Child, you've been unable to wield magic. Labyrinth asked his jailer. No, well I can only use weak spells. Naruto said as he stared up at the dragon. Naruto's eyes sparkled as he gained an idea. Wait, you can't teach me magic. Naruto happily said as he began to shake with anticipation. You said that you are really old, right? So you should know some really strong spells. Child, you have gained access to my power and you still wish for more. Labyrinth said as he expected this child's greed to be satisfied with his power alone. He shouldn't expect much for greedy lifeforms. He was surprised when Naruto looked completely confused. I can use those tricks I saw you use, cool. Naruto said as he was thinking of the surprised faces of Fairy Tail next time they see him. Labyrinth stared at the child, marveled by the way this child acted. Those humans that gained the power of the dragons turned on those that taught them after greed devoured their hearts. Yet this kid was speaking on how cool he would look. This child still has his innocence, he will soon be enticed by more power. Boy, so how about you teach me how to use this power and I will pay you back big. Naruto proposed with a huge grin. And what do you mean by that? Labyrinth questioned his proposal. Well, I will find a way to free you. Naruto said, causing Labyrinth's eyes to widen with surprise. You do realize that our souls are one now, separating me from you will surely be your demise. Labyrinth informed Naruto, who didn't look fazed by the fact he will die if he tried to release him from his prison. Well, it's not fair that you have to be stuck inside me for forever. Naruto said as he waited for Labyrinth to give his answer. I don't sense any deceit coming from this child. Labyrinth thought as he contemplated his options. Should he give power to a child who may use his power for his own gain? Child, I will not teach you my knowledge. Labyrinth turned away from Naruto as he lied down. You have access to my power, learn it on your own. Naruto was taken off guard by the dragon's decision, so he turned away and agreed to do it on his own. Fine, I can do it myself. I've never needed a teacher before anyway. Naruto cupped his hands in front of his mouth as he puffed his chest like he seen Natsu do. Labyrinth looked over his shoulder only to see Naruto blow empty air. Wait, can I even use magic here? Labyrinth sighed as he laid back down. This kid was truly something else. And Kagura woke up peacefully for the first time in a while. She felt the same warmth she felt when Simon held her when she was having nightmares. This feeling of peacefulness was immediately gone when she felt something heavy on top of her. Her usual calm composure quickly disappeared when she heard the soft breathing of the person on top of her. She quickly tossed him to the side, ready to lecture him until she saw it. The carcass of the monster that left severe burns across her body and nearly killed both of them. Her eyes widened when it hit her. She brought both of her hands up to her face as she examined her body and felt shocked when she felt a smooth exterior. She picked up the broken blade as she used it to see her reflection. I'm not burned. She also blushed when she realized a huge portion of her clothes was burned off, not leaving much to hide. She turned to Naruto to take the remains of the jumpsuit for herself until she saw something that surprised her. He had a sort of tattoo over his right bicep, a design that she didn't see before. It was like an eye of a reptile, half-lidded as it was still not ready to fully open. Her hand reached to touch the design, but she quickly pulled back when an odd feeling occurred throughout her body. What was that? Kagura asked herself before she sent a glance to the remains of the hybrid monster that attacked them. The body that had black liquids escaping from the monster's mouth, eyes and ears. Does that have anything to do with that mark Naruto has on his arm? She pondered the thought before she realized again she wasn't wearing much right now. A blush appeared on her stoic face before she decided to take what Naruto was wearing for now. It is more convenient if I wore his clothes than I walking with no clothes. Naruto. Come on, there. Naruto said as he held out both of his hands like a character he once saw in a manga. Nothing happened as he sighed in defeat as he decided to check the Kamehameha out as a no-go. He turned back to the dragon, who was rather laying down looking elsewhere. Come on Gramps, at least teach me one super cool S-class spell that would surely beat Natsu up. Naruto said cheerfully as he was thinking of the dumbfounded look of everyone in Fairy Tail when he shows them how strong he became. The dragon looked behind his shoulder before declining the request again. I have no real reason to use my time to teach you my magic. Labyrinth said as Naruto was becoming more angry by the moment. He gritted his teeth as he pointed toward the giant beast that could decimate him with ease. Well, I don't need you anyway. Naruto said as he turned away from the ancient dragon as his eyes stared deeply at the area in front of him. His usual boisterous attitude looked to disappear as he was given the same treatment everywhere he goes. I have been teaching myself for a while anyway, I'll just do it on my own. Labyrinth looked over his shoulders to see what Naruto was doing this time. He expected him to just act idiotic like he was being for the past hour, but instead he was sitting down. Labyrinth realized now that by the slowing of breathing and his lack of movement he was meditating. This was odd in his opinion, especially for someone as energetic as the child. His curiosity piqued as he decided to ask his intentions. What are you doing, child? He asked Naruto, who still has yet to move. Naruto decided to interrupt his focus as he looked over to Labyrinth. You won't be able to utilize my power within your soul, you should just patiently wait for you to awaken. I'm not just going to just sit here and waste all this time, I need to grow stronger so I can prove them wrong, Naruto whispered as he continued to focus. Yeah, maybe the ancient dragon was right, he may not be able to do much within his soul, but he was not known for just doing nothing for long, after all, he is Naruto Uzumaki, and he never quits. Labyrinth sat up as he decided watching the boy was better than resting in the river of time he created for himself. He was unable to sense anything from the child, he figured that he would not be able to use magic in this realm, but that uncertainty disappeared as he noticed a disturbance through the river. He was able to see it, the very ground below Naruto as his presence split the river. He also felt within him as well, the feeling of a pull toward Naruto. He is the sudden pull. The river collided back through Naruto's body as the feeling Labyrinth disappeared as well. He looked down to see Naruto heavy breathing as he was looking down at his hands. Labyrinth did not realize this, but Naruto lost control momentarily as he also felt the same sensation run course through his body. Kagura. She secured the pouch carrying her money on her waist, which was lucky enough to be detached her waist when she slammed against a tree. She didn't understand how she was still able to walk, but that could matter less to her. Her priority was find where her brother was. She prepared to leave the area and head to the next city until she heard the sound of heavy breathing. She looked back to find Naruto breathing heavier than before. Naruto, I apologize that I am unable to look after you, but my brother is my first priority. She said as she gave a small bow. She began walking away from Naruto. Every step she took, she kept feeling the same feeling every time, regret. Should I head to Magnolia and check there next? Should I see if any fishermen have any information of my brother in Hargent Town? Is Naruto going to be fine? She hesitated her step before sighing and returning to her quest to find her brother. An annoying, exuberant, boisterous child will not get in her way. Even though he would dive into danger just to save someone they barely met. She hesitated again before she sighed in annoyance again. She turned toward the direction of Naruto as she glanced toward there with pure irritation. Naruto would plague her conscience unless she did something. Days have passed for Naruto, but he would never notice. He either spend his time trying to figure out how to spend his free time honing his skills. He stopped trying to ask the dragon for any sort of help as he decided to show this giant lizard that he didn't need its help. Labyrinth on the other hand, decided to quietly observe his endeavor. The child could not utilize magic inside his soul as there were no Etheranos, but this child found a way to do something else. Every time he sat there meditating, Naruto was attempting to synchronize with Labyrinth's own soul. Labyrinth did not have much knowledge on this sort of situation, but he understood very well that this child's soul and his were connected. He figured it out instantly when he felt the very rage his jailer felt outside of his soul as he felt the call for him. He called for Naruto, but he was never able to hear his voice. He felt his very power be pulled from him and watched this child fuse with his power and make it his own, but he was not able to fully control it. He became a savage beast who only desired to devour all that stand before it, and he would have if it wasn't for Labyrinth intervention. But now this child was trying to control his power, his corrupting power. Naruto turned to look at the giant dragon who's staring at him with analyzing eyes. I've seen your life pass by as you grew older, so I know what you have went through. You seek recognition from those you consider family, yet that is not all you seek. Where are you going with this, Gramps? Naruto asked as he became a little surprised by all the sudden talk about him and his family in Fairy Tail. I wish to know what your intentions are after gaining that acknowledgement. Labyrinth asked as he wished to know if his suspicion about this child was correct. I never thought of it, maybe become a wizard saint like Gigi. Naruto said more in the manner of a question than an answer. Labyrinth was not visibly showing it, but he was not amused by his answer. He was uncertain by what to do with power that could shake the very foundation of this new era, yet this boy was naive to what he holds. Labyrinth laid back down as he only hoped his suspicion was wrong for once. "Boy, you old lizard, you try to have a conversation for the first time and two on what is happening," Naruto said as he noticed his hand has become transparent. "You are returning back to reality, now please leave me to my peace." Labyrinth said as he wished to be alone again, in this space he called home since he was sealed. Naruto smiled at the mention that he was finally returning back to the outside world where he can show Kagura his power, then she will instantly mesmerized and show him how to be a badass swordsman. OW, my head really hurts. Naruto muttered as he finally was awakening from his long slumber. He quickly closed his eyes again when the rays of sunlight hit his vision. He let it adjust enough to notice he was sitting leaning on a tree next to a river. He also felt a small chill run down his body. He looked down, and that is when he noticed he was only in his underwear. The situation got even worse when he heard the sounds of water splashing around. His eyes turned to the river as his cerulean connected with Hazel eyes as she stepped out of the river. Both turned visibly red when they noticed that Kagura has stepped out of the river with only her underwear on. Naruto was speechless as this was the first time he's seen a woman with so little clothes, but his expression only angered the only woman present. She considered Naruto was leering at her, so she picked up a rock and threw at the newly awakened boy. Pervert. After Naruto awoke again, he instantly begged Kagura for forgiveness. She wasn't having any of it, but that is when Naruto noticed that she was wearing his clothes. After some time of arguing, they both ended it as they sat in front of a fire Kagura created. Naruto looked around to notice that they were not in the same place as before, yet he noticed the cart the deceased old man let him ride in. Inside the cart were his belongings. The horses must have ran off when the giant snake attacked them, so having the cart was an odd thing to take. It was easier to travel while watching over you. Naruto turned to see Kagura impassive eyes staring at the flames devour the wood she picked up. Naruto was confused until it hit him, she pulled the cart with him in it. "Why, I thought you didn't want me around?" Naruto asked with a curious look. Kagura just looked away, which caused Naruto's facial expression change. His lips began to curl up as he understood why. "Oh, I get it. You were amazed by my super cool bravery and decided to take me in as your student." Naruto's boisterous attitude resurfaced as he stood up, completely forgetting he was barely wearing anything. No, Kagura wanted to explain until Naruto realized another reason why. He had a nervous expression as he slowly began to step away. "Or why you actually fell for me and now wished to have me for yourself. That explains why you are wearing my clothes." Naruto wished to say more, but Kagura silenced him when she stood up and smacked him across the head. She sighed in annoyance as she turned back to the fire and continued to observe what the flames can do. She picked up a leaf and threw to the flames, fascinated by its sudden demise. "You know, I never met someone who has the capability to annoy me like you," Kagura said as she continued staring at the flames consume more. Naruto recovered from the hard smack as he took a seat next to Kagura. He didn't appreciate Kagura calling him annoying, but it was not going to affect him. "You know, if you weren't so uptight and decided to have fun, you wouldn't be alone." Naruto put his thoughts in the open. Kagura ignored him, which he wasn't completely surprised by. He was able to tell that she wasn't the talking type since the first time he spoke with her. He turned to her, look at her, barely taking in her appearance. She was beautiful, no doubt, but he could care less as he took in something that he didn't notice when she first jumped in and saved him. The calm and composed Kagura who jumped on the head of a snake, easily disposing of it. No, this Kagura kept her face hidden from showing any emotions, but he was able to see it in her eyes. Naruto was able to tell that she was like him and hiding behind that emotionless face, but he was unable to see it for himself. Now he was able to see the girl who was showing longing, for he guessed was the brother she was looking for. "She is kinda like me." "Hey Kagura-sama, how was your brother like?" Naruto asked Kagura, who turned toward him. She didn't lose her emotionless facade, but in a way Naruto could tell that question surprised her. Kagura didn't say anything as she just returned her gaze back to the fire. Naruto sighed by her response as he kept prying for any sort of answer. "Come on, it's the least you can do for taking my clothes," Naruto said as he watched Kagura turn back to him, this time glaring at him. It is more acceptable for a small boy to walk around with less clothes than a young lady, she explained. Well, if you just checked my bag you would have found spare clothes, Naruto said as he just realized now before it came up to him. Why was he still walking around with only his boxers with pictures of frog on them? He quickly ran to his bag and pulled out the extra spare clothes he brought and quickly put it on, falling on his face when he tried to put his pants on. Kagura watched all this and couldn't help but let a smile creep up on her face. Idiot, Kagura muttered with a small smile. Naruto noticed this as he sat next to him. You know, you look really pretty when you smile, Naruto said as he nervously rubbed the back of his head. I think I'm too old for you to flirt with, Kagura muttered, causing Naruto to turn red like a tomato. He began to sputter how he wasn't flirting, he was only being nice. Kagura ignored his little turmoil as she walked to the wagon, ready to sleep. Naruto watched Kagura walk away from him, still blushing from the blunt response to his compliment. He sighed as he leaned back, letting his back hit the tree. He looked toward the direction Kagura took to sleep, letting a smile creep onto his face too. I'm grateful you're safe, thank you, old oversized lizard, I know you're listening, so yay, thank you. And? Yeah, I know many of you were probably not entertained with this chapter, but I have a reason to do what I did. First, him being able to access his magic within his soul didn't sound right to me, so the only thing he could actually do was try to figure how to spend the remaining time he has there. Physical training was also a bad idea as him doing any sort of physical training would not affect his body. He did ran through the motions of the fighting styles he worked on, but that was it. Second, Labyrinth didn't train him throughout the 2-day span. Reason why? Because he felt nothing to gain in training Naruto. Naruto did say he would release his soul, but Labyrinth understood it could not happen as both their souls are entwined. Third, Kagura only stayed because of guilt, her priorities are still the location of her brother and she feels Naruto will just get in the way. Pure destruction is all he was seeing. Naruto didn't understand what was going on, but the screams of pain and agony were difficult to ignore. The skies were filled with a thick smog caused by the powerful flames that burned through most of the forest. The once great greens that covered the earth was now a wasteland filled with the bones of the culprits. And the beautiful once blue lakes and ponds were now polluted with the blood of both dragon and humans. Naruto's lips quivered in fear as tears threatened to fall as the images were burned to his mind. There in front of Naruto stood a giant yellowish-brown dragon laughing at the man he held in his hands. The dragon gave a sinister smirk appeared as he brought the man closer to him. Naruto was too afraid to look away, let alone scream by what occurred next. The dragon giant maw opened as he ripped the man's upper half off his body before spitting toward the side. Naruto was now completely afraid, something completely different from what he felt before. He witnessed death before as proof of the old man that suffered a similar fate when the giant snake devoured him, but this was different. This time he stared at the empty eyes of a dead man. The man was looking at him, as if asking why did he just stand there as he was being ripped in half. Naruto was shaking in fear as he stared at the dragon, who now began to laugh at the easy kill. That laughter was short-lived as a golden chain ripped through the dragon's chest. The dragon was shocked by the sudden attack before looking at the culprit. A woman with long red hair and light golden armor smirked before she dragged the dragon down with incredible strength. More humans appeared as they prepared to finish off the dragon, but they were attacked by more dragons. A different dragon with similar colored scales appeared out of the smog before spitting fire at those that came to kill his kin. The red-haired woman was able to evade the fire and used her chains to try to drag down the dragon. She was able to wrap around its legs before she was taken up with the dragon. Naruto lost focus from the red-haired woman as he was more distracted by the new screams from the burned humans. He could not captivate what was occurring as he was now openly crying. This could not be real, is this just a bad dream? The screams became louder as Naruto tried to shut out the sound but was unsuccessful. Yes, this is just a bad dream, this much bloodshed can't be real, right? Naruto now completely shut his eyes, desperately trying to erase the images of that much death, but he was unsuccessful at getting rid of the images. Please, wake up. I don't want to see this anymore. I just want to get away from this. Naruto dropped to his knees, now shaking from so much fear. The sounds of despair disappeared as the world went black. Naruto opened his eyes to see himself deep underwater. Held his throat as he was unable to hold his breath any longer. He desperately tried to swim up to the surface, trying hard not to drown. Naruto sat up from the same shallow river he laid on when he first arrived. He was desperately trying to regain his breath as he looked down the liquid he thought he was just drowning in. Nothing was making sense anymore, he was sure he was on that terrifying battlefield, but now he was here again. What you saw was a war that occurred years before your time. Labyrinth explained as he laid at the same spot as before. Naruto was still confused before he looked down at his hands, which were still shaking out of the fear he felt. He looked away from his trembling hands and looked toward Labyrinth. He opened his mouth to question what occurred, but his mouth could not utter a single word. You witnessed a war culminating the end of my kin's reign and the birth of your kind's dominance. Labyrinth added as his sharp golden eyes gazed at Naruto. The war between humans and dragons. Naruto thought, not bothering to hide his pained expression. Two things were on his mind watching those events. Was this what they called war? Was this much death and destruction a real thing? Why would someone do such a thing? Naruto questioned, still signs of fear in his tone. Labyrinth motioned his head down toward Naruto's level. You are still young and naive to the world, but you will soon understand when your heart is corrupted. Labyrinth said as his golden eyes were metaphorically piercing through his very soul. Naruto sat there quietly as the very fear he once had for this dragon returned shortly. Labyrinth ignored the fear Naruto was feeling for him as he continued. Creatures drown themselves in evil that corrupt their very soul, those who hold power are more vulnerable to lose themselves. That timeline of pure bloodshed and destruction of our land was based on the sole purpose of power, the desire to stay the dominant species. Labyrinth finished as he opened his lips slightly as the black miasma from before leaked through the corner of his lips. I have witnessed young naive cubs like you grow into bloodied warriors ready to take lives, without resentment for morality. You will soon understand when you grow older and my power corrupts you. For a moment, there was enduring silence. Labyrinth stared at the child before him, who sat there quietly. He understood that was too much for the still developing mind of a young human, but this child would surely die if he kept that innocence. Naruto looked up from his lap, glaring daggers toward the massive dragon. The small moment of fearing this dragon disappeared as his anger rose for this beast. Is this another way for you to talk down to me, think that I don't understand what really goes on in this world? If so, why don't shut up with your outdated ideals? I will not stand here as you try to lecture me on how I'm destined to grow up to be, because that is pissing me off. I don't care what people or old grumpy dragons like you think, only I will choose what I grow up to be because I am in charge of my fate. Naruto finished as he stood up from the liquid he was sitting on. If you think I'm only going to rely on your power to become stronger, then you don't know me as much as you claim you do. Naruto said as he pointed at Labyrinth. You will proven wrong along with everyone at Fairy Tail when you witness it firsthand. Naruto then pointed toward his chest and gave Labyrinth a confident smirk. I will become the strongest mage that this world ever seen and do that without the help of you or any else from Fairy Tail. Believe it. Labyrinth just stared at the young boy oddly before, not able to find any trace of deceit again. This child witnessed a memory of war, yet Naruto was fine after all this. Naruto was visibly afraid a while ago, wasn't the human mind feeble in situations like this? Naruto turned away from Labyrinth as he looked around for a way to leave. Wait. Why the hell am I here again? Am I going to be forced here for another 3 days again? Damn it, and I just said something cool. Now I will have to face him. My old dragon, I really don't want to spend another 3 days here, so is there a way for me to leave? Naruto asked as he scratched his cheek and looked away from Labyrinth. Labyrinth just pointed at door that stood there, a few inches above the river. Naruto was taken back by the door, wondering if it was there all along or if it appeared just now. Whoa, was that door there when I got here? Wait. If it was, does that mean those 3 days were just a waste of time? Naruto asked as the thought that he was forced here pissed him off. No, this door formed once your body readjusted to my power. This door is a passage out of your soul and back into your physical form. Labyrinth explained as the door opened slightly. Naruto looked at Labyrinth for a moment before turning to the door. He walked toward the door as Labyrinth watched him. He stopped just in front of the door before turning to Labyrinth. You know that it will be a while before I find a way to let you free, maybe we should try being friends. Naruto said with a smile as he turned to Labyrinth. He understood that Labyrinth didn't trust him and he had every right not to, but Naruto didn't believe he deserved to trapped forever. Labyrinth was imprisoned in him and that was not fair to the dragon who just saved him and Kagura. You still wish to free me? Labyrinth asked without showing any expressions. Well yeah, I mean I kinda owe a lot to you. Naruto said as he grabbed the knob of the door. He opened the door all the way before giving one last message. Naruto smirked as he told Labyrinth one last thing. I know we were forced together, but I really don't wish you to feel that you are required to acknowledge me. I really want us to be friends, just because you need the freedom a friend would give you. Before Labyrinth could respond to what he believed were childish comments, Naruto walked through the door. Labyrinth watched as the door closed, wondering the intentions of that naive boy. He held no deception, no bad intentions, only just the need for companionship. Labyrinth grunted as he laid back down on the river, staring down at his unclear reflection. This boy is still blind to the world we were born into, he would just lose those traits once he loses someone. Everyone dozes. Damn birds, can't they let me sleep? Naruto yawned as he sat up. The first thing he heard once he woke up was the damn tweeting of the annoying blue birds. He yawned once more before scouting the place he was at. Yeah, leaning on the same tree he slept at. He stood up as he looked to see where Kagura was at. It appeared to be close to sunrise as he could see it was still pretty dark, but Kagura was not where he last saw her at. He was close to becoming worried that something happened to her before he felt something fall on his head. He looked down to see it was an acorn. Naruto went down to pick up the acorn before another one fell on his head. He looked angry now as he looked up to see Kagura sitting on one of the oak tree's branches. What is the big idea? Naruto yelled in argument for the blatant reason those acorns fell on him. Kagura ignored him as she turned to the horizon. Naruto grunted because he was being ignored as he started climbing up to where she was at. He was able to reach the same branch as her. Naruto jumped next to her and looked toward the same direction as Kagura. No lie, he was amazed by the scene he was about to witness. The mixture of the blue sky with the red that the sun creates made a beautiful image he could not look away from. Originally Naruto wished to argue on why she threw those acorns at him, but the image drawn on the sky was just too beautiful. Whoa, the sky looks pretty from up here. Naruto said as he and Kagura continued staring at the rising sun. He had to admit that the sight of a sunrise was as beautiful as people described. You know, my brother used to wake up early to help my father at our farm. But he actually woke up that early because he enjoyed the sunrise from the top of our roof. Kagura said out of the blue. Naruto turned to her as to wonder where that came from. I once was able to wake up that early and followed him up to the roof. I asked him why he enjoyed the sunrise and do you know what he said? No, what did he say? Naruto responded. My brother said that watching the sunrise was like starting over, resetting every problem we faced the days before. Naruto looked at her weirdly, as if wondering where this conversation was going. If you can start over, where would you start? Kagura asked as she turned to Naruto. Her gaze was intense in Naruto's opinion, but he really didn't know how to answer. Yes, he was practically treated as a baby in Fairy Tail, but they still loved him. Makarov treated him like his own son, Urza and Murahin cared for him dearly, and even Natsu and Greya, he really didn't know how to answer her. Kagura gave a slight smile before turning back to the horizon. You still don't know yourself, well I was the same when my brother asked me. Naruto really wanted to question what she would like to reset of her life, but she began to speak again. Naruto, I can't take you with me. Huh? Why not? Naruto, you wanted to learn from me to become stronger, but I am not as strong as you believe. Kagura smiled slightly as her gaze stayed at the rising sun. Those memories of that man that found her when she was all alone, who gave her strength when she was weak, who showed her love when she showed him hatred. I am not a master of the sword, Naruto. I abandoned my training to search for my brother. Kagura just slightly looked down. I was easily beaten by that beast, and I would have lost to the snake if I didn't ambush it. Kagura. Naruto called her as his eyes stared at her form. Then why did you jump in to help me? I don't know, my body just moved on its own, Kagura said as she gave a slight sigh. Naruto responded with a smile. HN, you are even cooler than I thought. Kagura didn't look up from her lap as she continued to hear Naruto out. You were scared, aware that you may die yet you were prepared to give your life for me. Not once, but twice. So I kinda owe you know Naruto mentioned as his hand was unconsciously set really close to hers. So how about you'll take me with you and I'll help you find your brother. Maybe we'll be able to find some cool spells in our travel Kagura-sama, and then you could show your brother how badass you actually became. Naruto said as he appeared to be planning or dreaming of their future to come. Kagura looked up from her lap toward Naruto with quite surprise. She had nothing to offer, her knowledge with her sword was a few techniques her master showed her. She was never able to take time to learn any spells, well she doesn't even know if she can even wield magic. Naruto, are you sure? Kagura's tone completely contradicted the monotone way of speaking she used. The chilling tone she was used to speaking in was now sounding more vulnerable, slowly removing the cold mask she metaphorically used. It's just. Well, we are friends now right? Naruto said as he continued to smile toward her. I like my space Oh, trying to regain your coolness even after slipping just now huh? Well you could deny it all you want, but you like the idea of us being friends now. Naruto said with a confident smirk. Kagura glared at Naruto before pushing him off the tree branch. Naruto landed hard on his face before glaring up at Kagura. What the hell? You could have killed me. Naruto argued as he made a humorous voice while holding his nose. But you're still alive. Kagura said as she returned her usually cold demeanor returned. Naruto just glared at Kagura, who returned her gaze back to the horizon. She could still hear Naruto whine about how that really hurt, but she wasn't worried. This kid was too stubborn when it came to pain, after all, he tried to fight a beast knowing well that he had no chance. Kagura glanced down with a skeptical look when she remembered the dead beast that attacked them. Wait, did Naruto kill that monster? Fairy Tail. Damn, I hope I didn't miss them. Mikao said with a tired expression as he walked into the nearly empty guild. He just came from monster extermination mission he took 2 days ago. It would have taken even longer if he didn't hurry home, but those who took the S-class trials were expected to return today. He made a bet with Wakaba that Natsu was going to come back in S-class mage, and Wakaba betted that Kana was finally going to win it. Where is everyone? Mikao said with confusion. The guild was nearly empty, with only a few there with a downcast expressions for some reason. He walked toward the closest person, getting his attention. Hey, do you know why this guild seemed empty today? Mikao asked this mage, who he actually didn't recognize. Yeah, he didn't know this guy's name or if he even existed. The guy looked up to see Mikao, who if he remembered took a mission a couple of days ago. Did Mikao not know, even if he wasn't here, the whole world heard about what happened to Tenru Island. Mikao, you haven't heard. The mage said as he looked at Mikao sadly. Mikao looked at the man oddly, before sighing in annoyance. Ugh, don't tell I lost the bet with Wakaba. No, it's something more serious than our bet. Mikao turned around to see Wakaba leaning on the guild's door. He had a grim expression as he walked toward his longtime friend. Wakaba's right hand held a tight hold on Mikao's shoulders. Mikao, Tenru Island has been destroyed. Wakaba told his friend, looking down in the process. He didn't want to look up as he did not want to show Mikao his tears. Mikao on the other hand stood there, face showing that he was skeptical. Did Natsu do something stupid? I mean, destroying a whole island should be a new high for us. Fairy tale. Wakaba stayed quiet, his head raised up, tears threatening to fall once more. Mikao only continued as he could not accept the truth. Must have been those two brats. Gray and Natsu just couldn't help it. Mikao. Naruto is lucky he didn't go, he doesn't even know how to swim. Mikao continued to go on, mentioning Naruto's incapability to swim. That reminds me, I need to check up on that brat. Mikao said as he went to leave the guild building. Wakaba grabbed him by the wrist, stopping him in the process. Mikao did not speak or look at Wakaba as he was stopped. Mikao, none of them are coming home. He said as Mikao ripped his hand from Wakaba's grip. He didn't say anything as he walked out of the guild. Wakaba didn't follow him as he let him be alone. Naruto, hurry up and open the door. Mikao yelled as he kept knocking on the door. He was currently in front of the house Makarov and Naruto shared, trying hard to get Naruto to open the door. Brat, don't tell me you are still mad about the S-class trials. Look, how about I take you and Romeo out to some ramen? I will even give you some pointers about magic, maybe teach you some of mine own. Mikao said loudly, but still no one answered the door. He sighed before scanning around for a spare key. He found them on top of the window frame. He opened the door to find the house oddly quiet. Naruto. Mikao yelled for Naruto as he began walking up the stairs. He reached Naruto's room as he knocked first. Naruto, I'm coming in, so put away your dirty magazines. Mikao teased as he opened Naruto's room door. He found himself in complete surprise as he found the room unoccupied. He walked in and whistled at what he saw. Much of the walls was filled with posters of famous mages. He also had to walk around what appeared to be books about magic. Kid is at that age, Mikao thought with a smirk as he could see a famous orange book just under the bed. He went to pick it up but something else got his attention. Right on top of the dresser was a note held in place by a cup. He stood up and walked over to the note before picking it up. He first noticed that it is addressed to Makarov, but Mikao was curious to what it was. He opened the note and read what was inside the note. His eyes widened as he clutched the note. He put the note in his hand before running toward the guild. I won't lose you too. And I was going to mention the origin of the book in this chapter, but decided to hold on to that since I wanted to post this chapter. The book will be mentioned in the next chapter, also Naruto will find out about Tenru Island. I have a feeling that many people will not appreciate how I made Kagura feel a little vulnerable compared to her personality in the canon. This chapter is a realization to her that Naruto is slowly getting close to her, much to her beliefs. You noticed that I gave Kagura a teacher, I will also write about what that is about. I felt kinda like the little talk with Naruto and Labyrinth was cliché, but that is how Naruto is in canon. My Naruto in this story is completely based on the canon since I wanted it that way. Also, Naruto and Labyrinth are still not close. Begin. Wakaba. Mikao screamed as he stormed into the nearly empty guild. Wakaba looked at his friend as he took one swig of his beer. He didn't expect to see Mikao back too soon, but his expression surprised him. He was not in the stage of denial, but rather he looks to be in panic. Naruto left home, he ran away. Mikao stated as he handed Wakaba the note. He read the note as his expression changed as well. His sadness of losing friends in Tenru disappeared as he appeared to be in panic at what is said. Those around Mikao and Wakaba were worried by them until Wakaba looked at him as if asking if this is serious. Is this for real? Wakaba asked. He held the note in front of him. Mikao gritted his teeth as he held Wakaba up by the collar. What do you mean if this is for real? Have you not been checking up on him? Mikao said with an intense glare. Was no one checking on Naruto while he was gone? Naruto was disappointed that he was not chosen, but someone should have at least checked up on him. Mikao, calm down, please. Wakaba began as he tried to calm down his friend. We'll find Naruto. He isn't the brightest kid, so he shouldn't be able to go that far. Wakaba said in a joking manner before he was punched by Mikao. Mikao glared down at his best friend before sighing and dropping down to his knees. He gave a slight bow as he wished to apologize for the way he responded to Wakaba. I'm sorry for punching you right now. It's just you not taking it serious pissed me off. Wakaba just sighed himself as he stood up and had his hand reached out toward his friend, as if waiting for his friend to accept his gesture. Mikao accepted it as he was helped up. You don't have to apologize, it was my fault for taking this as if it's a joke. We should really hurry though, Naruto could have been gone for days if anything. You don't even realize the danger that kid get on his own. Mikao nodded as he turned to the others in the room. They all just averted their stares from Mikao once they realized what he was going to ask. Those few did not really felt any responsibility to find Naruto. Most of them were actually thinking about what others did yesterday when they first got the news. Some feared what is to come with the disappearances of the core members, and others lost their motivations. Mikao noticed this from them, so he gritted his teeth as he turned away. Guess those here don't really feel like helping us out. Can I still count on you, huh bud? Haha well, Wakaba said with a little enthusiasm before he adopted a more somber tone. I really don't feel like losing another person I care for. Shut up with that already, Wakaba. Mikao still did not wish to hear about the events of Tenru as he continued to deny it. Let's just hurry and find that brat. I don't think Romeo would appreciate his dad taking his sweet ass time away from him. Alright. Wakaba said as him and Mikao went out of the guild, see if they can find any trace of where Naruto could have been. What the hell? Naruto said as he tried to understand what he was reading. Kagura looked back to see why Naruto was so angry about. They were currently walking toward the next town, traveling in surprising silence coming from the boisterous blonde. Kagura was a little curious of the book that caused the silence from Naruto. Naruto, what is that you are reading? Kagura asked curiously. Naruto perked up from the book that could open for the first time. That book appeared to be over 500 pages, but oddly only one page was written on. Even so, that page was written in some language that seemed like gibberish to Naruto. Oh, it's this book Gramps found on me when I was a baby, Naruto said as he squinted his eyes as he tried to figure out what any of this meant. And was supposedly sealed away or something like that, but now that I can see what's inside, I can't read any of it. Maybe it's because you're a moron, Kagura said coldly as she turned away from Naruto and continued her way. Naruto glared at the back of Kagura before he looked back down at the book. It did not appear as words to anything he's seen before, even those weird letters he's seen in some of Levy's old books. They looked more like symbols that did not have any form of order. What he was certain of when he looked through the gibberish he was trying to figure out, there was one thing off. 5 shapes across the first page was a different color than the others. It's a dark kind of red, kind of like Urza's hair. Wait, they kind of look like fingerprints. Naruto thought as he traces the out-of-place shapes there. He started overlapping the fingerprint-like shapes with his own until he heard something telling him to stop. Stop, Naruto, a small whisper told him as Naruto looked around for the source. There was no one other than he and Kagura who hasn't stopped walking. Naruto just looked down intently at the book again. What was that? Naruto thought as he looked around for a male's voice he believed he heard call to him, but there was no one. He stood there confused until he heard Kagura call to him. Naruto, are you done dozing off, because I want to make it to Harjin town soon. Kagura said with a small frown as she looked back to see Naruto standing there looking around the grassy plains. Huh? Oh, sorry, I thought I heard something, Naruto whispered the last part as he ran up toward Kagura to catch up to her. It is fine, Kagura said as she looked down on the edge of the green plains. After all, we are here. Oh. I've been here before. Naruto said excited as he remembered visiting an old guy that his surrogate grandfather Makarov knew. Old man Yajima owns a restaurant here. Who? Kagura asked Naruto as she gave him a curious glance. Well, he is this old fart that knew Grandpa Makarov for a long time, Naruto said as he brought his hand up and cupped his chin, making a thinking pose. I also recall that he was part of the Wizard Council. Oh, maybe he knows about your brother. Kagura walked in silence as she doubted that someone from the Wizard Council would know of someone from a small village like where they came from. Boy, Kagura, you better not act like this once we meet that brother of yours. Naruto said as Kagura looked up to see him glaring at her. I doubt your brother would want to see his cute little sister looking so hopeless. Her eyes widened as she stared at Naruto before he began to running toward Harjin. He looked back at her and gave a huge smirk as he called back at her. Hoi, let's stop moping around and let's find your brother so you can train me. Naruto said as he turned right back toward the entrance gate of Harjin and ran smiling. Kagura looked at the running Naruto and showed a small smile. Naruto was an idiot, but he was an idiot that changed people. Kagura began to run after Naruto as she tried to catch up to him. Heh, Warren, I am happy I found you since this makes things way easier. Mikao said as he held two fingers in his head as he was linked to Wabaka, Warren and Max, who they met on the outskirts of Magnolia, preparing to leave on a mission themselves. Well, you better be, since I am using all I have trying to expand the distance of our link. Warren yelled through the telepathy link they all shared. They decided to check outside of Magnolia since they figured Naruto was no longer within the town. Max was sent toward a small farming village north of Magnolia, while Wakaba and Warren were both checking towns east and west of Magnolia respectively. Just so you know. Harjan town is far beyond my limitations, so you are going to be cut off soon. Warren sounded stressed as he said that through telepathy, but Mikao just smiled and understood that he was on his own once he stepped into the train that headed toward the port town. He expected a possible destination of Naruto. He wasn't sure, but he felt Naruto leaving had to do with the disappearance of the Tenru team. Naruto must have heard and left to try to find them. Yeah, I understand that, but I just got a feeling at that moment Mikao was cut off to the disdain of the other three. They all looked sad, but they all seemingly smirked at the same time as they had confidence on Mikao. They heard Mikao's last words and knew that they had to put their trust on Mikao. From a train, you could see Mikao just staring out of the window as he looked at the beautiful sight of Magnolia, which caused him to smile. It was a soft smile as he had his mind on a certain blonde who always was the center of the attention in the guild building. I will find you, brat, and give you a smalling whooping for making me worry. Mikao said as his right hand went through his hair as he sighed. But after that I am going to treat you to some tasty ass ramen from that ramen stand you like to visit. Just you wait, Naruto, cause I'm coming for you. Wonder why old man Yajima's restaurant is closed especially on a Wednesday afternoon, Naruto said with a thinking pose as he noticed Kagura looking down with an uneasy expression. Boy, chill out sensei. Naruto said with a grin and a thumbs up. The old man is probably out or something. I'm not worried about that, idiot. Kagura said with a sharp glare. I'm still wearing your god-awful orange suit. Boy. Naruto said with his own glare. That tracksuit is awesome. DSK, I should have just came here with my burned clothes at least that was more appealing than this. Kagura said as Naruto got clothes to her face and glared at her even more sternly. Kagura just glared back before pushing him away from her and walking away. I am going off to find a change of clothes. Kagura reached into her pocket and pulled out a stuffed toad-styled wallet filled with jewels. This will be sufficient enough. Naruto just watched her leave as his eyes widened. He checked his pockets and realized all his money was in Kagura's possession. He gritted his teeth as he went up to catch up to Kagura before stopping once he noticed something that caused him to freeze. Naruto stopped as he turned and walked toward what he saw. He gulped as he stopped in front of a wall that had a spread of newspaper pages taped to the wall. He stood there silent as his widened eyes stared at the one page that caught his full attention. He was so focused on this page, he didn't notice the person who noticed him and ran straight toward him, stopping right behind him. Naruto. Naruto. Naruto didn't turn around to face Romeo's father as his eyes were still on the page. Mikao frowned as he took step forward, allowing him to see what Naruto was so focused on. He sighed as beside him, he stared at the newspaper page article of Tenru Island. Mikao clenched his fist and gritted his teeth before putting up a front for Naruto. He tried to smile softly as he tried to sound calm towards him. So what's up with going all the way here, brat? Mikao chuckled as he grabbed Naruto by the shoulder. Lost in the road of life again? Hey, it's fine, brat, how about we go back and I'll treat you to some ramen, know you love that stuff, Mikao said before being cut off by Naruto. You know I made a big fuss over not being considered for the S-class trials, Mikao could hear a chuckle as Naruto continued. Ha, I was a total brat now that I look back. Kid, you just wanted to show everyone your progress. Mikao tried to defend Naruto's actions, but Naruto was having none of it. I only became good at hand-to-hand combat, but in a world of magic, I am still considered weak. Kid. But that is fine. Naruto turned around and smiled at Mikao as tears streamed down. Because I am going to be the strongest. Mikao gritted his teeth as tears formed in the corner of his own eyes. He pulled Naruto into a hug as he gritted his teeth, trying to hold his sobs. Let's go back home, Naruto. Let's return. Mikao was interrupted by Naruto, who lightly pushed himself off of Mikao. I'm sorry, old man, but I can go back. Not yet, Naruto said as he stared at Mikao intently. Mikao wanted to question Naruto's decision, but Naruto did not let him. I have things to prove, places to be, dragons to slay. Mikao's eyes widened as Naruto made a broad declaration. He gritted his teeth as he wanted to protect him, baby him like before, but stopped himself from doing it. I have hidden behind all of you long enough. Naruto said intently. But things changed. I have chosen to follow my dreams, my own way. Things will not be the same, Naruto. I won't let it. I'll teach you my magic. I'll give you all I can offer and help you achieve your goals. Mikao couldn't finish as he suddenly began to feel drowsy. He gritted his teeth as his half-lidded eyes looked upon Naruto. Thank you, Mikao, but I promise next time you see me, I'm going to be the strongest mage to ever walk. Fiori Mikao could only hear before his body dropped into Naruto's arms. Naruto smiled softly as he sat Mikao near a bench before giving a sly smile. He rummaged through his wallet and replaced some of his cash with a note that read, "Thanks for the ramen money." So you used a sleep spell on a man in broad daylight, then rob him of his money." Naruto turned to see Kagura with a new apparel staring at Naruto, with her arms crossed in front of her chest. Naruto just nervously laughed as he held his hands behind his head. "Would you believe me if I tell you that I know this guy and the money is only borrowed?" Naruto said as he watched Kagura turn away from him, walking away from him. "I was pretty sure I saw one of those rune knights around here," Kagura said as she continued to walk away from Naruto. Naruto slowly began to panic as he tried to reason with Kagura. "Wait, Kagura-sama, let me treat you to some food, my treat, I promise." Naruto tried to propose to Kagura, who was too busy ignoring him. They finally turned a corner to see a rune knight awkwardly gloating about himself to a local young woman. She looked uncomfortable as the rune knight continued with an obviously made-up story of him dealing with S-class dark mages. "Excuse me off." Kagura could not finish as Naruto covered her mouth before dragging her back around the corner. She looked stoic at Naruto, who nervously looked at her before he tried to bargain again. As Naruto was trying hard to convince Kagura that everything was a misunderstanding, events that was surely going to change the future of the magic world as we know it were going on inside Naruto's very soul. Labyrinth cold eyes stared in front of him, staring at the figure that was grinning towards him. The once endless void he resides in, completely warped into something else. Half of the sky is blood red with black clouds, while the floor was littered with dead trees and pillars. The figure that stood in front of him was a giant orange fox, with blood-red eyes and giant shark teeth grinning towards him. "I guess this brat has finally given himself to his despair," the giant fox said as he mockingly stretched in the barren wasteland side of this shared world. "I can only assume you were the one whispering to him," Labyrinth said as he analyzed the being in front of him. He knew of the type of things Naruto held in his mind. He didn't look into it more, since he had no interest into doing so. "Nothing go past your eyes, ole so great dragon." The giant fox mocked the black dragon as he slowly walked forward and tried to poke his claw to the side Labyrinth resided in. He smirked even more as he concluded what occurred. "Well, seems that some force won't allow me to cross your side, and I can only conclude it works in the same manner for you." Labyrinth grunted before lowering his head back down, before closing his eyes. He had no interest in speaking with the fox before him, but the fox wished to speak to him. "My name is Kurama, dragon. I am the ninth of the tailed beast created centuries ago, created before the rule of dragons even begun, but you know that, correct?" Kyuubi asked as he sat down, eyes staying on Labyrinth form, who opened his eyes again. "I know of you 9, creations of the fabled sage of 6 paths." Labyrinth said with a small grunt as he never really focused on human mythology, but this lost page in history interested him. Stories of this man was completely removed from any book of the past, as if stories of this man was not to be known. He looked into it and was surprised to know how far-fetched the story was and how powerful this man was said to be. "Yes, I am one of them. Pleasure to meet you," Kurama said with a mocking grin. "I also thank you for helping him remove that suppression seal he had on. He still has not been able to hear my words, but he will soon." "What are your intentions?" Labyrinth asked as his head perked up. "I want nothing from the boy except to meet him," Kurama said with a sinister grin. Labyrinth just stared at the demon before him with caution, as he expected the beast to desire freedom over anything. "I do not desire freedom as much you believe, dragon. Freedom from this body would only trigger the fail-safe world-level seal created by the first Uzumaki," Kurama said as he recalled a red-haired priestess staring down at him with teary eyes before a giant seal appeared above him. "So I must assume you will try to live up to your name, you cunning fox," Labyrinth said as he has analyzed Kurama's word to deduce that this demon meeting Naruto was to bargain or manipulate Naruto. He was still a child, a broken child that still was naive to much of this cruel world. "This child future was stolen by me, by us, by humans." Kurama smirked evilly as Labyrinth scowled. "I just wish Naruto to know of his parents, his village, his ties to chakra." Chakra, Labyrinth said to himself knowingly. He heard of magic's purest and densest form that was forgotten by future generations as a handful of hidden villages hid their secrets. "Yes," Kurama said, reading Labyrinth facial expressions to answer his question. "I see, speak to the child if you wish then," Labyrinth said as he turned away from Kurama. "I expected you to be against me talking to Naruto. I have no desire to keep you from the child. As I do not care for the consequences the world will meet when you finish manipulating that child," Labyrinth said, now uninterested. He was first curious on the sudden appearance of the fox. He was interested by the information the fox gave him, but he still didn't care. Naruto was his host and he was stuck inside his soul. Well, as much as I wish to talk to the brat, I am still unable to. In due time, he'll meet me. Kurama said as Labyrinth turned around to see the space around the demon fox warp around. He grunted as he watched a demon fox disappear as his presence was never there. He could only think that it had to do with the suppression seal that prevented his magic and the boy's true magic from being revealed. This child is cursed with misfortune. Labyrinth laid his head down as he stared at the tree that appeared 100 feet from him. A pitch-black tree with white leaves gently swing in the world within Naruto's soul. Truly misfortune. Yes, that lead of yours was pretty pointless. Kagura said as she laid inside their joint room they received from the ship's captain. After they realized that there was no lead on her brother Simon, they decided to take a boat into another port town west of Heian. Kagura turned to her unusually quiet companion, who was staring at the ceiling. You're unusually quiet, did something occur with the man you stole? Naruto was quiet for a while, even with Kagura's attempt to get under his skin. He stayed that way for a while before turning to Kagura, who kept her eyes on Naruto the whole time. I found out my old friends in Fairy Tail D came to look for me. Naruto said as he hesitated to say that they were dead. Since meeting him for the first time, Kagura knew that Naruto hid his emotions better than her. He was nonchalant when that elder who was giving Naruto a ride was eaten before him, but this time, something felt off. She realized that the facade he put up in front of her was fading. Kagura, when we arrive, can you teach me the basics in wielding a sword? Naruto said as his eyes stayed glued to Kagura. She closed her eyes as she was going to remind him that she was still far from a swords master. I know, but basic swords technique is still good enough for me, I just want to get stronger. Naruto now sounded desperate. Kagura just frowned as she closed her eyes and sighed. You yourself acknowledged that we can become stronger together, now you want to rush it. Kagura asked him, causing Naruto to bite his lip. When they see you again, you'll show them how much you grew. I would like that. Naruto said with a somber smile. Kagura just frowned as she turned away to fall asleep. She didn't wish to pry further into the situation, so she turned to sleep. Naruto walked out to the deck of the boat as he looked out to the ocean as he thought of his friends. Naruto snickered as he thought about Natsu and Gray fighting. Hey Naruto. Why don't you let me teach you the magic my dad taught me? Natsu said with a wide grin before he was hit in the face by a logger. Are you still going at it? Gray said annoyed as he walked toward them with only boxers. There is no way you have a dragon for a dad. I so do. And put some clothes on, you ice perv. Natsu said before he jumped to brawl with Gray. Naruto could only shake his head and laugh as everyone watched Urza beat both of them for fighting. I also didn't think that dragons existed, Natsu so about that. Naruto whispered to himself before holding head as he leaned on the rail. Naruto, I don't wish to see you get hurt. Urza said with a warm smile as Naruto walked toward her, with awe in his eyes as a teenage Urza just beat up the recently recruited Natsu. I know I may be small now, but I want to grow up to be as strong as you. A small Naruto said with a blush in his face as he looked up at Urza with pure awe. I know you will grow up to be strong, just be patient and you will. Urza said with a warm tone as she ruffled Naruto's hair. I know you all just wanted to protect me, but I wanted to be strong to protect you all, Naruto said as his voice began to sound shaky. Continue to practice hard, Naruto. Makarov said as he watched Naruto train single-hand combat from the book he gave Naruto. Yay Gramps. If I can't use any strong magics then I'm going to become strong without it. Naruto said with passion as he continued. I can't wait to see the faces of everyone when you do. Makarov said with a chuckle as he continued to watch Naruto train. I just wanted you all to be proud of me. Naruto said as he began to openly cry. I didn't want to burden you Urza. I wanted to fight next to you, Gray and Natsu. I wanted to protect you Mira. Naruto said as he held his eyes as he continued to cry before the world turned black. He looked around before seeing a wasteland. He clutched his chest and looked down to see his scaly body bleeding. He then looked up to see a black dragon looking down at him. Pathetic, the black dragon said as he then began sucking in the air. Naruto could only stare wide-eyed before a huge blast from its mouth was sent toward Naruto. And Naruto didn't know what was happening before watching the dragon shoot his attack toward him. He could only look in confusion before his vision turned black again. He again was now seeing something different. He was walking down a lone dirt road in the middle of the night. He turned to his left as he saw a black-haired man with crimson eyes holding his hand. His small hands. He looked up to see now that this man was hurt. Seriously hurt. Don't worry Naruto, those men won't use you anymore, he said as he tried to hide the pain he was in. His eyes looked tired as blood came out of his lips. Who are you? Naruto asked in fear as he found himself walking with this injured man. "Oh, I guess I never told you my name. My name is Shisui-chan. Good to finally meet you," Naruto Shisui said before he stepped in front of Naruto and crouched in front of him. "Come on, let me give you a piggyback ride, you look tired." Naruto hesitated before letting Shisui carry him. Shisui continued to walk. "Where are we going?" Naruto asked as he noticed the man breathing heavily. "I'm taking you to a place I know you'll finally be happy at." Naruto was confused by his words before the world changed again. Once again he was standing in front of the black dragon, who was more injured than before. Naruto was back in his hybrid dragon form as he held a giant axe as it oozes black and green energy. "You continue to defy me even though you know that you will only die along with those you love," the black dragon said as he clenched the dirt under his claws. "Wahaha, but this time for sure I will kill you, Labyrinth. I will erase you and that host of yours from existence." The black dragon launched himself before the world changed for Naruto again. He stepped back from the sudden shift before looking at his future. His eyes blurred. He was laying in the floor, dying. He watched as the black dragon laughing at him with what appeared to be an arm in his right claw. The world around him changed back. He was once again on the boat. He fell back as he was breathing hard from what he just saw. He saw a dragon. He saw himself as a child walking with an injured man. He watched himself die. Was that my future? Was that my past? What just happened? Naruto whispered to himself as he held his head in shock. "Shisui-chan." Naruto said to himself in his head as he focused on the injured man from what he just saw. "Ichiha." Naruto said to himself before a magic seal appeared on his forehead suddenly before he fell back unconscious. "Hey, wake up." Naruto suddenly shot his head forward, waking up suddenly. He looked around before noticing Kagura holding her nose to the side. "Oh hey Kagura, good morning." Naruto couldn't finish his sentence as he was thrown a thick book to the face. "Idiot," Kagura said before walking back to her room. Naruto only nursed his own nose as he watched Kagura in confusion. "What's up with her?" Naruto muttered before turning to the side as he saw a stranger laugh at him. "Ahaha." The stranger laughed as he was leaning on the rail, looking at him. Naruto only glared at him as he noticed this man's appearance. This man was in his late 40s, well built with a button white shirt tucked in his nice slacks. He had a long blade strapped to his right hip. He also had a black eye patch on his left eye. "What's so funny, old man?" Naruto said angrily. He didn't like it how that man was just getting in his business and laughing at him. "Oh, I'm sorry if I'm being rude, lad. I was just admiring the youthful love you both had for each other." Naruto blushed before jumping on his feet and pointing at the stranger. "Now you look here, old man. It's none of your business but me and her are not together," Naruto said nervously. "Oh, alright then, sorry for intruding in your business," the older man said as he turned back to the ocean as he pulled out a smoke as he sighed. "I would offer you one, but you are far too young," the man said with a smile. "Well, I'm practically an adult, but I would still not accept those cancer sticks. Mira and Gramps showed me pictures of what they can do to you." The man chuckled as Naruto stood up and turned to the ocean as well. "I don't mean to intrude in your business again, but why were you sleeping on the deck of the ship?" the man asked without turning to Naruto. "Eh? Well, I don't remember much, but I think I came here last night. Don't remember falling asleep though," Naruto said with a confused facial expression. He remembered walking out of the room to get some fresh air, but the rest was blank. "Quite odd," the man said as a short silence followed for a few minutes. "So old man, what's up with that sword? You a vendor or something?" Naruto asked as his curiosity perked up from meeting this man. "Oh no, this is my trusted blade that has been by my side for a very long time," he said as he patted his sword. "Oh, so you must be a swordsman. My friend Urza is a swordswoman. Well, she's good with a different kind of weapons." Naruto perked up as he also was reminded of Kagura. "Oh, my friend Kagura is also good with swords, even though she is just a beginner. Mastering the sword is a tough task, your friend must be proud of herself," the elderly man said, referring to Urza. "So what's your name, old man?" "Mine is Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said. "You can call me Bradley." The man introduced himself with a gentle smile. "So do you only fight with swords, or do you know any cool magic?" Naruto asked. "Well, I prefer to fight only with my sword, so I never seeked any flashy spells." Naruto scoffed at the man as he continued smiling. "But I do use my magic to strengthen my body, lad." "Don't know what you mean, Gramps," Naruto said before the man summoned a wooden blade from his spatial pocket. He didn't know flashy magic, but he did know what he felt was essential. Bradley then threw the wooden blade toward Naruto and turned to him, one hand in his pocket. "How about you come at me, lad?" Bradley said with a smile as he brought his free hand to taunt Naruto to come forward. Naruto did not like being taunted, so he went running toward Bradley with the wooden sword pulled back. As Naruto closed in, Bradley slowly brought his hand down toward his sword. Naruto smirked mentally as he was going to hit Bradley before he could even pull out his blade. That is when it happened. Bradley only set his hand on the head of the sheath as the wooden blade was a few inches from his face. Then the wooden sword was cut to pieces before touching Bradley. He only continued to smile at Naruto as he looked down at the broken wood. What happened? Naruto then glared at Bradley as he pointed at him. Did you give me a broken sword to make fun of me? No Naruto, he cut it. Naruto turned to the side to see Kagura standing on the doorway with a serious look. He cut your wooden sword without pulling out his. Quite observant young lady. Bradley said as he turned to Kagura. Nice to meet you, Kagura I suppose. Kagura nodded toward Bradley before walking toward Naruto and stopping right in front of him. Bradley nodded as he understood Kagura's intentions as he summoned another wooden sword and tossed it toward Kagura. I noticed that you use two different type of magic when facing this idiot. Naruto whined from being insulted by Kagura, but she ignored him. I noticed a thin layer of magic over both your hands, and I noticed Naruto becoming slower when he closed in. Naruto's eyes widened as he turned to Bradley, who chuckled. You have quite the eye young lady, you even exposed my secret haha. Bradley said as he put one hand to rub the back of his head. I use a type of physical enhancement magic in magic that is known as gravity magic. So you did cheat. Naruto pointed at Bradley, who smiled towards him. But I will fight you with pure swordsmanship, lass. Bradley said as he held his sheathed sword high, ready for Kagura. Kagura held her wooden sword in front of her. Kagura took a small breath before running toward Bradley with her sword held low. Kagura quickly blocked Bradley's first strike but was brought to her knees when he quickly hit her on her left knee. Kagura quickly brought her sword up to block a strike aimed toward her left as she tried to stand back up but she fell forward when another strike hit her other leg. You're quick, focused and naturally skilled. But you blink when our blades made contact. Bradley said as Kagura rolled out of the way to avoid another strike. You're impressive still, lass. With a couple years and a capable master you can truly master the sword. Bradley said before he brought his own sword up as Kagura went on the offensive. He blocked every strike while keeping his one eye on Kagura and a gentle smile on his face. But as it is, you are still an amateur. Bradley said as he skillfully dodged a front thrust, causing Kagura to look on with wide eyes as Bradley held his sheathed sword on her shoulder. This boy mentioned you as being a beginner, but he never mentioned how naturally skilled you are. Bradley said as he pulled back his sword and turned to Naruto, who was in shock. You are amazing Kagura. Naruto complimented Kagura, who suddenly kneeled down. Please teach me how to wield a sword like you. Kagura said with her head down on the floor. I need to become stronger. Well ass, this trip is not very long. I can't teach you much in the short time period. Bradley said before smiling toward the disciplined girl. But maybe I can spend a few days to teach you more when we land. Do you have the time to train with me? Bradley asked as he looked at Kagura, who looked up. I need to find my brother, but I can't find him as I am right now. Please teach me as much as you can. Kagura pleaded, causing Naruto to cover his mouth and giggle a little. Kagura ignored him with a faint blush. Boy, teach me too, old man. Naruto said as he stood up and smirked toward Bradley. I'm sorry child, but to tap into Kagura's hidden potential in swordsmanship. I must focus on her Naruto pouted causing a chuckle. But I will teach you gravity magic alongside Kagura. Well at least that's something Naruto said still disappointed that he couldn't learn alongside Kagura. Kagura noticed this and giggled a little, causing Naruto to glare at her. You got something to say? No nothing, idiot. Kagura said with a smile which caused Naruto to grumble and turn away, causing more laughter. Kagura would you come with me for a bit? Bradley said with his calm expression as he looked down at the young girl who was still standing while Naruto laid in the floor breathing hard. Yes master. Kagura said as she had her breathing in control. She was able to discipline herself in basic swordsmanship techniques that required her breathing and heart in a controlled pace. After landing, Naruto and Kagura joined with Bradley as they camped out at a cave close to a neighboring village. They had a small clearing to train while Naruto and Kagura learned new things. Bradley agreed to train Naruto in wielding a sword after much whining, but Naruto realized he didn't find it easy. Kagura looked unnatural with a sword while Naruto struggled to even keep focus. So he decided to just learn gravity magic. Kagura and Bradley walked deep into the neighboring forest, not realizing that a shadow clone was following them. Naruto for some reason remembered something vaguely. He remembered a classroom full of kids, none of the faces Naruto remembered. He then saw steps into creating a clone, which he noticed that he was not able to at first. He then remembered a masked man teaching him a different type of clone, a solid clone. When Naruto woke up he went out in the middle of the night and discovered he could create a huge amount of clones with just strange hand signs. Kagura, have you ever wondered where I came from? Bradley asked the young girl, which caused Kagura to frown. I have but I realized you never told us because you wished to keep it a secret. I will not pry into your past if you didn't want to reveal it. Kagura said causing Bradley to smile. You are very kind to consider my feelings, Kagura. Kagura blushed at the compliment as Bradley continued to talk. But I want you to know of my past to strengthen you. Kagura was confused as Bradley began to speak of himself. I come from a land where we take to survive. A land created for the sole purpose of turning a man into a god. To become what he wished to be, he created 7 to act in his place. To cause as much death as possible in the attempt to create a widespread rune spell, known as the Transmutation Circle. Bradley said somberly. I don't understand. Kagura said with a confused expression. I was one of those 7, Kagura. I was placed as king, which I started a war out of lies and manipulation. I ordered the death of many and hid it under false presence of peace. Kagura's eyes were widened. She was still confused, but memories of the day her village was plummeted by slave owners came back. People ordered to kill and take kids as slaves. They took Simon away. How could you? Kagura said as she stepped away, with an expression unlike her. Her eyes full of fear as she looked up Bradley, who looked down in shame. I did it out wrath, the wrath implanted in from birth, Bradley said as he turned to Kagura as tears began form in his one eye. With that wrath, empathy was born within me. It took the end of my life to realize that. I should have died years ago, but for some reason I lived. I woke up in a foreign world with no memories of my past. Until a year ago I remembered. Bradley said as he kneeled down to look at Kagura, who still looked afraid. And until last year, I found out the stone that kept me alive was decaying. Bradley said, causing Kagura to look at him with further shock. Bradley brought up his sheathed sword displaying it to Kagura. This sword is filled with deep emotion that powers it up to cut anything without even unsheathing it. This sword holds my empathy, my regret, my remaining hate. Bradley said as he reached out for Kagura's hand and brought it closer to the sword. The sword that brought pain to others should be redeemed by a just girl. I cannot teach you more, the rest you must learn on your own. Bradley said as he stood up and turned around. Kagura stood there frozen with the sword in her hand. That sword has no name, so please name it and redeem it. But Kagura was cut off by Bradley, who waved his hands. Take care, Kagura. Please take care of Naruto, he can be clumsy sometimes. I enjoyed both your company, but it is time for us to head our own ways. I will continue to find my way in life while you seek your brother. Please take care. Bradley said, hiding his tears from Kagura. Kagura gritted her teeth as she held the blade close to herself as she tried to call for him. It was a little less than 2 months and she cared for Bradley. He was someone that reminded Kagura of her father and Simon. Boy. You going to have an emotional farewell without me? At least I know who your favorite was. Naruto walked out into the open, causing Kagura to turn to her and Bradley to stop. And what's up with her getting a sword and leaving me with nothing? Naruto argued as Bradley can be heard chuckling softly. He turned to Naruto and outright laughed, causing Naruto to glare at him. You remind me so much of that boy. A young man that brings out the best of people without trying. Well, I should give you a proper goodbye as well. Come here. Bradley said as he motioned Naruto to come closer. As Naruto closed in, Bradley grabbed him in a hug. I'm proud of you, Naruto. Continue to be yourself because I know you will one day be the strongest mage this world has ever seen. Take care of Kagura and be strong for both of us. Bradley said as he stepped back and looked down at Naruto. Wait. Your goodbye gift was encouraging words. She gets a badass sword and I get words. Your words aren't going to help me fight Vulcans. Naruto said with a small glare. Bradley just chuckled as he closed in and whispered in his ear. He grabbed Naruto's wrist and showed a rune that was shining. It was a dark-coated red tribunal-style rune that went around his wrist. I do hope that this rune helps you become stronger. Bradley whispered as he stepped back and looked with a prideful look. I'm happy that I have met both of you. Please take of each other and grow strong together. I didn't get a cool sword like her, but I guess it's okay. Naruto said with a smile. It was fun meeting you, old man. Thank you for not being a gross pervert like others your age. Thank you, Master. Kagura was quiet, causing Naruto to nudge at her. Thank you for everything. Goodbye, you two. Bradley turned and left as Naruto and Kagura watched him leave. For an old man, he was alright. Naruto said as he kept his eyes on him. Though he gave you a sword and me a tattoo. Not the best role model. Kagura sighed as she hit Naruto with the sheathed sword. Naruto began whining on how that sword could cut people while sheathed and saying he could have died. Kagura just kept staring at him with more sighs. Haha. Bradley chuckled as he could listen to them as he continued to walk away. A year later. A maturing Kagura stood there with wide eyes as she looked at the woman who was looking at her with a painful expression. After a year of traveling, Naruto searched endlessly for her brother Simon. It was until recently they met a young girl dressed as a cat they discovered something. Naruto and Kagura took a job to drive away some Vulcans from a neighboring forest, but when they arrived they found them tied with hearts in their eyes. On top of such Vulcans stood a young girl close to the same age as Kagura. What did you say? Naruto looked on at his friend with worry. He has grown stronger compared to how he was a year ago. He still didn't have an explanation for the strange visions, but somehow he discovered a strange power through those visions. He felt a condensed form of energy within him that allowed him to crazy stuff like stick to the side of buildings and walk on water. Right now they were camped out in the forest as Milana told Kagura something she didn't want to hear. After Milana told her tale of living as a slave in a tower, Kagura quickly questioned her when she mentioned a Simon. It was then that she teared up and told Kagura the truth. Simon is dead. And? I sensed it here. A heavily cloaked figure said as he stared at the snow-covered mountains, close to the borders of Fiori and Seven. A magic circle appeared behind his back as two tattered black wings appeared. He flew up until he noticed the opening through one of the mountains and headed inside. Inside the formed cave he noticed a wooden gate of sorts. He walked towards it before noticing the writings on the walls. Drawings a powerful dragon worshipped by the men before us, the cloaked man said as his hand traced the drawings further before stopping as another drawing showed a black dragon tearing through the worshipped dragon. The worshipped dragon's cries caused powerful thunderstorms to plague the sky for days to come as it was left to die by the black dragon. The dragon cries powerful enough to cause lightning storms. The man took off his cloak to reveal a mature blonde man wearing a long-sleeved blue shirt with mesh shirt underneath. He wore orange track pants that were tucked into high-top sandals that made it easier to travel with. I'm going to need your help to understand this, Labyrinth. A 17-year-old Naruto said out loud before he felt a pull and was brought into his soul, where Labyrinth resides. What do you need to understand? Labyrinth asked as he brought his head up from his resting spot to look at Naruto. I need to know if that dragon on the wall was powerful and if that was Ignoglia that slated. Naruto asked the powerful dragon which caused the dragon to stare at the young man for a few seconds before answering him. That dragon was one of the few who could control weather patterns. The one described as the storm dragon, Ryugo. The dragon who controls lightning. Labyrinth explained simply for Naruto who nodded before Labyrinth continued. He was a powerful dragon that also refused to take part in the war against humans as he was said to share a bond with a human woman. Labyrinth said which caused Naruto to chuckle at the implication. Labyrinth noticed this and sighed. Ryugo was foolish enough to show himself to the village where the woman resided, which attracted the attention of Acnologia himself. Labyrinth continued, ignoring Naruto's reaction to the part of the shared bond between a dragon and a human. He was defeated by Acnologia, but he was not killed. He caused a powerful storm that caused a powerful lightning to hit the village and turned himself human to hide in the confusion. Labyrinth said as stared at Naruto. Dragons can turn into humans. Naruto asked in awe. A few dragons have control of Etheranos necessary to take a human form. Labyrinth explained as he watched in amusement as Naruto looked amazed by the ability some dragons have as Labyrinth continued. This seems to be his home. Naruto nodded in understanding before he was prepared to leave his soul to continue. Will you attempt to absorb his soul? Labyrinth asked as Naruto shook his head in denial. I didn't come here with the intention to take his life, well if he is still alive. Naruto said as he laughed nervously. No, I came here because something called me. Labyrinth just continued to stare at Naruto with curiosity as he continued. 4 years ago Acnologia took people I loved from me and he has hurt many before my time. I wish to become strong enough to slay him, strong enough to free the world of him. You're still foolish. Labyrinth said as he stared at the form of the man he has watched grow. Trying to play hero will only get you killed. If I do nothing I'll just die old instead. Naruto responded which caused the elder dragon to stay silent for a while before forcefully pushing Naruto out of his soul. What an interesting boy. Damn lizard, dragging and pushing me out as he pleases, Naruto whispered to himself before scanning the gate in front of him and noticed 6 different keyholes which he assumed was the way to open the gate. He sighed impatience as he held his right hand forward before it morphed into the dragonoid claws he was able to form using Labyrinth's power. I have no leads where the keys can be, and who knows if they aren't across all of Fiori, Naruto said with small traces of annoyance. He chuckled to himself as he reached forward as energy irradiated around his clawed hand. Then again, I have space-time magic thanks to my good Olay friend. Naruto's hand sat on top of the metal gate before he whispered one of the spells. Labyrinth's touch. Decay. Naruto whispered the spell he named himself as a purple glow began to spread across the gate as it began to crumble. He could only grin at himself before his hand reverted back to normal. Damn old lizard, I could have been a complete badass if you taught me years ago, Naruto whispered to himself as he stepped inside the opening and walked down the passageway as the light began to dim the closer he went down. Naruto's eyes become slitted as he used partial takeover to have his eyes change into that of a dragon's. Ah, there he is, Naruto said to himself as he walked forward towards the bones on top of the flat-sided stone. He walked around the bones before touching bones softly as he felt a surge of magic pull him into another plane. An area that had skies covered with an endless thunderstorm. You dragged me into your soul. Naruto yelled at the skies as he understood the situation he was in at the moment. The moment he touched the bones of the thought-to-be-dead lightning dragon. His soul and the dragon's fading soul connected. The sky was split open as a golden scaled dragon descended from the skies and stared down at Naruto. I called for you the moment I felt you close. You are the human who hosts Labyrinth, the beginning and the end. Ryugo asked as he referred to Labyrinth by the title he was given by the other dragons. I am. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, former D-rank mage of Fairy Tail if that matters. Naruto tried to give himself a title to not make a simple introduction to a dragon that has the ability to cause storms to flourish. Why did you call me and how did you know Labyrinth resides within me? You have the ability to absorb dragons into your soul and use their powers for your own desire. I also felt the first dragon the moment you came close to my domain. Ryugo explained as he continued to look down at Naruto, who took into what Ryugo said and looked confused now. If you say it like that, it sounds really awful. I mean, I only have one dragon within me and he was put into me when I was a baby I think. Some of the memories are still kind of blurry, Naruto said to himself as the dragon could only stare at him with small traces of amusement. Silence. I have summoned you here to judge if you are worthy of my power. Ryugo explained as Naruto finally understood what was going on. Ah. You brought me here to give me your power so I can carry on your legacy or something like that, right? Naruto asked in a way that lightly offended the great storm dragon. Well, I'm humbled by your offer, but I didn't come here to absorb your soul. I actually came here to ask if you have any pointers you can give me if I want to slay the black dragon, Acnologia. Naruto asked, which caused the storm dragon to land on the floor and stare closely at the human before him. You're foolish, are you aware? Ryugo pointed out before Naruto looked ticked off before pointing at the storm dragon. Hey. Why am I foolish for wanting to slay Acnologia? Naruto yelled in his defense. You are foolish for not accepting my power strong enough to harm the black dragon. Ryugo retorted. Just a moment ago you were telling me how my power practically enslaved dragons within my soul so I can use their powers, now you want me to take your powers, you dragons are so confusing, Naruto yelled, pointing at the golden scaled dragon. The dragon seemed annoyed, so he brought his claws up and slammed it down upon Naruto. Watch your tone of voice when talking to the bringer of lightning, Ryugo. The dragon yelled as he watched Naruto jump back out of the dust created by Ryugo's attack. Well, I'm always up for a fight, but you are also aware of your situation, right? I mean, we are only able to meet because your soul was sealed onto what remains of your body. Naruto said as he looked up at the dragon. I can only assume by your human girlfriend. You are within my soul, where my body still exists and my power is still intact. Ryugo roared with pride as a powerful lightning bolt shot from the clouded sky and headed towards Naruto. The bolt hit in front of Naruto, launching him back a few feet, which Naruto gracefully maneuvered to land on his feet. Such power, impressive for an overgrown lizard. I guess you are kinda impressive. Naruto said as he noticed the impact that the bolt caused the ground. He frowned knowing that comparing this attack to Natsu's, this was most likely a basic attack for the storm dragon. But showing me such displays is only weakening your soul's connection. My body gave up centuries ago, the seal only postponed my death. I wish to see your power to see if you are able to stand a chance with Acnologia. Naruto sighed as he stared at the dragon before taking a deep breath. I wanted to fight you without using Labyrinth's power, but I understand that you are not to be underestimated, Naruto said with a cool attitude as he stared at the storm dragon with no sign of fear. In reality he was trying to act tough so he keep the dragon at distance as he argued with Labyrinth. No human magic work here as my body holds no magic in the air. The storm dragon explained. Show me the power of the first dragon. Come on. That attack almost killed me. Synchronize with me so we can one-shot this lizard. Naruto pleaded mentally with Labyrinth, who stayed quiet as he decided to observe the fight between a real dragon and his host. I see, you want to test your host if he can defeat a real-life dragon without relying on you. Naruto concluded before Naruto smirked and ran towards the dragon. The golden scaled admired his bravery before lowering his vast body ready for any attack this man was going to throw. I could only use parts of your power, Naruto whispered before his left hand changed. He touched the ground as a tremor caused Ryugo to fly up. There is no magic in the air, so I can only rely on using your power. Naruto asked Labyrinth only to be answered with silence. Naruto sighed as he ran his hand through his blonde hair before his hand turned back to normal and two wings appeared in its stead. Naruto flew towards the dragon, who stopped midair to stare down at Naruto. Naruto could only fall back as a powerful gust of wind slowed Naruto down. He could only look up before being hit by the tail. His power was said to be able to shape storms with only his roars. He somehow sent a powerful gust of wind to slow me down, Naruto said internally before noticing the dragon descending quickly from the sky and towards Naruto. Naruto tried to fly away but was pinned down by the dragon's claws. It took me seconds to defeat you, boy. Ryugo said with a calm tone. Well, I was at a slight disadvantage with a no-human magic rule, and all. Naruto said through the pressure of a dragon pinning him down. Would you tell Aknologia the same thing if he was the one pinning you to the ground? Ryugo answered as Naruto and the golden-scaled dragon stared at each other. Because you wouldn't be alive by now. Naruto said nothing as he was right. You are unable to call upon Labyrinth's full power, you initiated offense knowing you were at a disadvantage, and you tried to analyze the situation while your opponent was in front of you. Ryugo said as he looked down at Naruto. Naruto could only grimace as what Ryugo said was true. Naruto faced strong people and monsters with Kagura and even alone, but all of them were either weaker than him or not bright enough to attack with precision. You have the power of a dragon within you, but you need the heart of one to fully master it. Naruto looked up as Ryugo let him go. Because you are not ready to fight the Dragon King. How can I become ready? Naruto asked as he sat up and stared at the dragon. Losing to you only made me realize that I need Labyrinth's full power. Power I cannot access unless he takes control of me. Your souls are connected as one. I know I realized this years ago, that's how I was able to use even a little of his power, but there is something else. There is a part missing and I am unable to use more unless I figure this one thing out. Naruto said as if he was pleading for answers. That is something only you and the first dragon could understand. Ryugo said as he brought his head down to look at Naruto. TSK, I need to grow strong as fast as possible. How about you? I don't know if I can, but maybe I can take your soul and infuse it with mine. I had a friend who could do that with demons, and her brother could do that with beasts. Maybe I can use your power to grow stronger, you did offer me it in the beginning, right? Naruto said as he stood up to stare at Ryugo. I know I must have failed your test, but I can prove that I am worthy. My test did not need you to defeat me in battle, I just wished to know if your heart was in the right place. The moment you came into my soul, we became connected. I was even able to witness you pleading with the first dragon to use his full power. Ryugo said, seemingly amused. I have even spoke to him while we spoke. Well, I'm not going to ask how that was possible, but if I passed would you give me your power then? Naruto asked pleadingly only for Ryugo to shake his head in disapproval. He told me I couldn't. Ryugo said. You are special and somehow was able to accept his power, but what remains of my power isn't. The moment you tried to absorb me, his power would erase me. So TSK. Naruto looked disappointed before he noticed the tip of his claw was placed on his forehead. He told me about you. He truly believes in you, even though he refuses to tell you himself. He told me how you wished to free him because you felt he was imprisoned by you. He also told me that he believes you can be the one to defeat Aknologia. If he believes in you, so will I. Naruto was confused by his gesture and was even more when he heard that Labyrinth actually had faith in him. The first dragon was gifted the power to warp space and alter time, but he could not give back life. Ryugo said as the tip of his claw stayed placed on Naruto's forehead. But he knows of a way to give you my power. I am Ryugo, a dragon whose roar can move the skies, thus being named the Storm Dragon by my kin. Bring glory to my name and spread the name of the Storm Dragon to those who you wield me against. Naruto was confused before he felt a surge of the Storm Dragon's memories drown his mind. Events from his past. To being exiled from his home for supporting the humans, to him meeting a young girl who was orphaned by such a war. To him teaching her Dragonslayer magic, to her sealing his weakened body here. That is my tale. You are an odd human. Ryugo said as he smiled at the human boy he brought into his soul. He looked around the thunder-filled skies and back down at Naruto. To be convinced you have the power to slay the Dragon King, Aknologia. Something even Labyrinth could not do. 20 minutes later. Naruto opened his eyes to see he was back at the cave Ryugo used to call home. He smiled back at the skeletal remains of the ancient storm dragon that once faced Aknologia. I will not let your name die here. Naruto whispered as he knelt down and thanked the dragon for telling his story. Naruto closed his eyes before opening them to stand next to Labyrinth who took over his body. So are we going to talk about how you believe in me and you actually like me? Naruto said with a smirk as Labyrinth stared down at him. Naruto quickly turned away as he stared down at the lake that showed what exactly was happening outside. He needed to figure out how Labyrinth was able to do different things exactly as it seemed impossible for him. The whole skeletal remains began to light up before it was engulfed in a pillar of light. Naruto looked in curiosity before Labyrinth answered him. My power allows me to interfere with space and time. What does that have to do with that pillar of light? Naruto asked as he was confused. Just observe. Naruto watched as his body slowly pulled his hand out of the light to bring out a golden scaled spear with a dragon's fang as its blade. I reconstructed his body to keep its resilient scales, his sharp claws, and keep his soul to manage his powers. So he is still alive. Cool, I thought you couldn't mess with life. I cannot, his remains of a soul is only used to keep his power from fading. Labyrinth answered. Wait, his soul is intact, doesn't it mean alive? Naruto asked confused. In a form, he is not dead, Labyrinth said in a form Naruto could not understand. Though, he is not much alive. Naruto was confused before regaining his body back. He stared down at the spear before smiling. He still felt confused, but he still had a promise to make. He stared down at the spear. Your name will live with me. Naruto said as he stared at the weapon he created with Ryugo's blessing. Using the remains of his soul and the revived scales to create this weapon. Ryugo. Stormbringer. How does that sound, Labyrinth? I kept his name and even added a little spice. Cool name, right? Naruto said as he waved the spear sloppily. He noted to himself he had to read up on how to wield a spear if he was to use Ryugo. He gave you his knowledge. Naruto could hear Labyrinth in the back of his head. Yeah, I guess. Can you believe a couple of years ago I was this weak kid who couldn't wield magic right? Naruto said as he rolled up his sleeve and put magic on his right index finger. He brought the finger down and held it on his left wrist. It began to light up as a rune appeared. Before Ryugo disappeared as well. To be fair, I also barely got to access a portion of your power. I need to figure out how to use more if I am to grow strong enough to fight Acnologia. Naruto screamed only to be pulled into his own soul. Stop doing that. Yet you learned to use my magic. Labyrinth answered. You have even used my power in ways unconventional to me. Well, I had to find ways to use your powers when I'm only able to partially transform. Naruto said as he scratched the side of his head in annoyance. Labyrinth pulling and pushing him out of his soul was getting to him and was beginning to bother him since they could talk telepathically. Our souls are still not synchronized enough for me to handle more of you. Yet you use your other magic when in combat. Labyrinth asked. A portion of my power is still stronger than the other magic you wield. Magic like yours is dangerous to use without full control. I can accidentally rot or even erase away a human being if I lose control of your power. Naruto answered Labyrinth, who was not impressed by his answer. The only reason I made a different approach with Ryugo was because I could not underestimate him. Is not taking an enemy's life the quickest solution? Labyrinth asked again, already knowing his host's answer. Killing is not fairy tale's way. Naruto said without looking at the dragon. I told you this before, let's not argue about it again. Those ideals is what pushed that female away. Naruto hesitated before pulling himself out of this world. A year and a half has passed since him and Kagura separated. After Milana told Kagura of her brother's death by the runaway convict Jell, Kagura changed. She became colder, more committed to having her revenge on Jell. This caused a huge rift between both of them which Naruto hated. She left with Milana while he decided to train on his own. Naruto sighed as he stared down at the steep mountaintop, staring down at the mist that hid the grounds. But am I any different from her? Naruto summoned his wings before descending down, back to the ground. She has conviction, which you lack. I want to slay Acnologia to free this world from him. My goal is justified. Naruto explained mentally as he passed down into the mist. No good deed is selfless. Naruto gritted his teeth as he heard Labyrinth words. Naruto was good at hiding his inner feelings, but the dragon sense to his soul was not fooled. Was it wrong to wish to slay a dragon who brings destruction everywhere he goes? Was he wrong to wish to end the suffering of many? Was his goal not as true conviction as he expressed? Acnologia took people precious to you, as that female lost someone precious to her. How are you justified and she is not? Only difference is she does it for her, you do it for others. Labyrinth wise words caused Naruto to stop his dissension. Her life is also precious to me. I don't want her to lose that precious life to hatred. Naruto said to Labyrinth before landing back down. He walked towards the magic vehicle he had stationed by a tree and jumped on. He was actually heading towards a northern city in Fiori, said to be the last place a monster was said to attack. Naruto drove for nearly 2 hours before arriving where the town was said to be, but he noticed that it was half destroyed. Buildings crumbled, people injured and children crying. Those were the images Naruto noticed as he drove by before stopping his magic vehicle, as he noticed an old man come in front of his vehicle. Please help that young lady. Naruto came out of the vehicle as the elder man grabbed his cloak. That girl from Sabertooth is fighting that beast alone. Sabertooth. Naruto said those words as he drove off towards the direction the panicked man pointed towards. Naruto got close before noticing a giant white eel carrying another silvered-haired woman away from a massive explosion. Naruto looked in amazement as another darker eel came out of the explosion and circled around the silvered-haired girl. Thank you, Pisces. Naruto heard the silvered-haired girl say as Naruto came out of the magic vehicle to get a closer look at the Sabertooth mage. The two giant beasts must have said something because she turned towards Naruto. I told the villagers to stay away. Not a villager, I'm actually a mage. Naruto said as he brought his hand up to explain why he was here. Then he noticed a foul energy coming towards them. This must be the A-class MMM. What type of magic did the geezer say he used? Naruto said as he looked down in confusion, trying to remember what type of magic his bounty used. Naruto was so preoccupied he didn't notice a man-wolf hybrid towards him at impressive speeds. Yukino tried to warn him, but the beast dropped down to the floor thanks to huge pressure. I gotta thank that old man if I ever see him. What are the odds a stranger with incredible sword skills and handy gravity magic would actually help a guy out? Naruto said before walking closer and closer to the beast. Yukino could stare in shock as Naruto walked closer. 2 out of 4, I met another like you years ago. That scientist creator of yours is already locked up for creating you all. Naruto said with a smile as his left hand changed. Today morning I got a new weapon and now I found my bounty, wanted dead. Naruto said those words as he touched the hybrid and caused its body to partially rot, killing it immediately. Naruto turned back to the young lady and waved. By the way, hi. My name is Naruto, mercenary mage I guess. I do jobs for the council. Yukino could only stare at the blonde mage in shock for defeating a beast she had trouble with. I'm Yukino. And? Naruto jumped off the tree before he could lose his balance. He was breathing hard as he sat down to look how far he was able to make it this time. He was able to pass his first mark, but he still had doubts that it was enough. Damn it, using chakra is damn hard. Naruto screamed as he quickly jumped to his feet. He closed his eyes before taking a deep breath. He held up his hand, which had 2 fingers unclenched. He felt a sensation on his feet before dashing towards the tree. He took 1 successful step up before feeling his other feet slipping. Not enough. Naruto tried to summon more chakra, but instead the excessive force dug into the tree. He jumped off the tree, but still landed hard on his back. Too little I slip, too much I dig into the tree. Why is using chakra so hard? Naruto said as he sat up. He wiped his sweat away before trying it once more. Naruto smirked as he passed his mark before he was forced to jump back. He took a deep breath as he continued to try to top himself each time. Naruto was running towards the tree again before his vision blurred. Naruto shook his head before he noticed he was no longer in the forest. Now he was standing in a village. Naruto was confused before he felt the ground shake. He was confused before seeing a giant fox destroy this place. Naruto looked around before he returned to the forest. He was confused by the sudden vision of that village and that fox. He held his head from being hit with another vision of the past. He has been getting a lot of these recently, thanks to one of the effects of having Labyrinth's power. My power is still not completely yours, which makes these visions hard to control. Naruto remembered Labyrinth's words. Konoha, Naruto said as he walked towards the tree only to allow himself to sit down, leaning on it. Konoha home. We fainted again. Naruto said to himself as he walked through a busy town north of Fiori. After saving that saber-tooth member and collecting his money, he decided to visit a busy neighboring town that was known for its magic stores. You keep trying to learn a magic long forgotten. Labyrinth said within Naruto's mind as Naruto stopped in front of another magic store. But you saw I'm close to using it. Naruto said to Labyrinth through their telepathic connection. He entered the shop and didn't want to freak anyone out with him talking to himself. Maybe. Naruto didn't bother looking at the many items the shop had at display as he came over and stood in front of the counter. May I help you? An elderly man asked politely. Naruto nodded before pulling out a book. He opened the pages until he stopped at a picture of a black-haired male who had different colored eyes. One was red with an unusual figure, another was a purple-colored eye surrounded by rings. Have you ever heard of chakra? Naruto asked the elder man who pulled out his glasses to read the description of the picture. End of Shinobi, the old man said before carefully inspecting the picture. His eyes widened before he walked to the back of the shop. Naruto looked confused until the old man returned with another book. Oh yes, I know I read something about chakra, he said before flipping through pages. He chuckled a little as he read a section of the book to himself. A story of ninjas who wielded such a thing. Ninjas, Naruto said to himself as he looked down at the picture. Images of a younger boy appearing before him before he held his head in confusion. Are you alright, lad? The elder man asked in concern. Naruto waved him off and smiled, easing the man's concern. I'm alright, just a headache. Naruto said. Ah, I see you must not be used to the cold weather we get here on Serpent Trail. Naruto grinned at the man, assuring the man is correct in his assumptions. Naruto only visited North Fiori for a chance to train in cold weather like Gray did. He didn't expect it to be this cold. Yeah, you're right, old man, so about chakra. This book I have here doesn't really tell me much about chakra, only about a man named Sasuke. Naruto told the old man who nodded. He flipped through pages only to nod as well. This book doesn't mention chakra much either. The old man says as he rubs his chin. Mostly stories of war of villages. Mine does too, Naruto said with a thoughtful look as he reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. How much for that book? The old man waved his hands before pushing the book forward. It wasn't for sale, so why not have it? You seem more interested in it than I am. Naruto smiled at the old man before grabbing a magical pen from a shelf and putting it down on the counter. Thanks old man, but I'll feel uncomfortable if I leave without buying anything, so how much for this? The elderly shop owner smiled at Naruto before setting a price. Naruto nodded and paid before leaving. Naruto stopped outside the shop before opening it to the section that spoke about chakra. The word was only mentioned a few times throughout a story of a great war involving 5 giant villages. I lizard, know anything about a war? Naruto asked Labyrinth as Naruto closed the book and walked towards the room he was renting for the night. Be more specific, humans have been in many wars throughout time. Naruto frowned as he knew Labyrinth was in a way messing with him. I know you see what I see. So tell me if you know anything about ninjas and 5 villages fighting. I do not. Naruto said nothing for a few seconds before nodding, understanding why he wouldn't know. Labyrinth jumped forward to avoid being slayed by Acnologia, and he was sealed in him. Naruto quickly stopped for a second before turning into an alley. He leaned on the wall waiting for the powerful magic he sensed. No person showed up until he heard a feminine voice behind him. Were you waiting for me? Naruto quickly stepped away from the person. Naruto turned to see a woman leaning on a building, arms crossed. Wait, aren't you Minerva Orland from that up-and-coming guild of Saber-Tooth? Naruto asked, which the Eastern-dressed woman merely nodded. Yes, and I have heard of you as well. Minerva said with a smile. A mercenary mage with the power to decay anything it touches. Oh, you probably heard of me from Yukino. She's a nice girl, really pretty too. Minerva just shook her head. Your alias is well known all over Fiori. She stepped towards Naruto until she was in front of him. Arms crossed as she looked up at the slightly taller mage. Fish cake. Naruto's eye twitched as he slowly became angry at the name. First. I looked it up, my name also means maelstrom. I'm pretty sure my parents meant something cool and not a ramen topping. Naruto would have ranted more, but he stopped when he noticed the girl's smile grew wider. Naruto put his hands behind his head and turned away with a pout. They never told me the mage who saved the princess was easy to rile up. She said with a mocking chuckle she hid behind her right hand. You didn't come here just to mock me, right? Naruto asked as a sphere appeared before Minerva in which she pulled out a damaged scroll. That right there holds information on the lost magic. Chakra. Naruto's eyes widened as he reached out to get it, but Minerva pulled back the scroll. Oh, I see where this is heading. Naruto said as he crossed his arms. But what makes you sure I can't take that scroll by force? Because your gravity magic is useless to those with strong control over magic. Minerva said with a mocking tone. And I am certain you using your decay magic would kill or maim me. I don't think you're the dark mage type, fish cake. That's a lot of information you got there, but why waste your time gathering it on me? You know I'm really not that strong, Naruto asked cautiously as he eyed the scroll Minerva had in her hands. My master is interested in recruiting recognized mages like you, Minerva said with a calm tone. Even if that recruit may be trash like yourself. And that scroll was a way to convince me to join Saber-Tooth. Naruto ignored the blatant insult thrown at him, but mentally was preparing special ways to get her back later. Yes, Minerva said simply before continuing. I overheard you looking for information on chakra, so I decided I would use it to bargain with you. Naruto stood there quiet for a few seconds before turning and walking away. Nah, I want to know what chakra is, but I don't like the idea of joining a guild for that information anyways. Naruto stepped back as Minerva came out of a wormhole that appeared before him. I think you are taking my offer for granted. Not really, if I accept I get to join possibly the strongest guild in Fiori and I get information on chakra. Naruto said as he walked past her. He sighed as Minerva grabbed him by his shoulders. He turned back and looked down at the now offended Minerva. Her simple smile was now replaced by an unsatisfied frown. You know all this and you are still refusing? Minerva said as she let go of his shoulders. You all don't need me anyways. Naruto said as he stared at Minerva. I heard those new dragon slayers won you first place at the last magic games. Most trash would be honored by my master's offer. Minerva said with a hint of disdain in her voice. But perhaps the master was wrong in his assessment of you. Naruto smiled before Minerva dropped down to one knee. Her eyes widened as she quickly used her magic to repel the strong gravitational pull, but Naruto already grabbed her by the wrist and pushed her to the wall. She tried to teleport away, but for some reason she couldn't. Well, I'm pretty surprising, Minerva Orland, ace of Saber-Tooth. Naruto said as he showed her that the hand that held her wrist was not normal. Like one, I'm not dumb enough to not look into strong guild around the areas I travel. So as a guy who has no guild affiliation, I had to travel to Crocus from time to time. Naruto said as he noticed Minerva begin to tremble a little. So for a guild around the capital to reach the title of most strongest, it's hard not to notice. I don't really care about your daddy's reason for wanting me, but I don't really have interest in joining any guild at the moment. Naruto said as he let go of Minerva and slowly turned to leave again. How? Minerva said as she stood up holding her wrist. How are you so strong? I'm not, Naruto said, still walking away. I'm just trash that got lucky. Minerva watched as Naruto took a right turn out of the alley. Minerva stood up to follow him, but he was already long gone. She gritted her teeth as she disappeared into a wormhole. Naruto smiled as memories of meeting Sabertooth's strongest mage returned to him. He stood up from the tree as he looked around to see 3 different replicas of Naruto getting higher and higher on the tree. He smirked as one fell and popped out of existence, only for another to run up the same tree as the replica before him. This time use less chakra. The real Naruto screamed at the replica as he was able to get higher. So this spell allows me to replicate and distribute my magic, while also giving me the memories of those who disappear. Naruto said to himself as a huge grin appeared. There also appears to be no rule against distance. Naruto said as he jumped with joy as he tried to summon more clones. The moment he summoned a bunch of clones, his eyes rolled to the back of his head and he fainted. The rest of the clones disappeared as Naruto laid there alone. The corner of his lips showed a trail of blood falling, but Naruto could not see the strain he put on himself. That boy is unconscious. And damn it, our debt will never be paid off with these ridiculous rates. A young boy turned to his disgruntled father, who now held the role of master of fairy tale. He was sitting at one of the dining tables, holding a paper that was mailed to him by the guild, Twilight Ogre. We can get the money if we just Romeo stopped talking as Mikao gave him a stern look. We will never do that again, not after last time Mikao said with a frown, but Romeo would not give up in trying to convince his father to join the Grand Magic Games. But this time we can actually do it. Romeo screamed, getting everyone's attention. Fairy Tail, now a small group of members in a small tavern, turned and looked at Romeo with pity. And why do you think that? Wabaka asked his friend's son. Because we have Naruto. Romeo showed a newspaper with a picture of Naruto. He had 2 wings coming out of his back as he held the royal princess in his arms. Note to self, Naruto said as he looked down from the ceiling. Naruto used chakra to stick his feet on the ceiling as he watched a strong mage wipe out 10 of his clones simultaneously. As he was done with the last clone, he looked up at the roof to see the original. Get down, you coward. The mage yelled before he dropped to his knees as a sudden force of pressure made it hard to move. The force suddenly stopped, which caused him to look up, only for another clone to appear and punch the dark mage. I lose control of my magic if I use chakra. Naruto noted to himself as he noticed the dazed dark mage stand up. He tried to use gravity magic to slow him down enough for his clones to overpower him, but he was unable to. So dark mage, Naruto said as he pulled out a bounty to read it to the mage in front of him. Draco. Is that really your name? Shut up, it's way better than fish cake. The dark mage mocked Naruto, who sighed as he crossed his arm and tapped his foot. That name will never stop following me, Naruto said to himself as the dark mage shot a concentrated blast of fire magic at Naruto. The fire consumed Naruto, surrounded by the destructive force. Draco could only laugh until the fire slowly died down. He watched as Naruto stood in the same spot, with his arms still crossed. Maybe I'll suggest some cool names to the council. Naruto said as he looked up at the shocked mage. He gave a smug smile as he asked the mage. Do you have any suggestions, Draco? The dark mage gritted his teeth at Naruto, only for him to drop down to his knees. He used brute strength to look up, only for Naruto to be holding a spear. For someone famous enough for the Magic Council to put a bounty on, you sure are weak. Naruto said as he held the spear in front of him, before tapping it twice on the ground. Please don't die, I'll get in trouble with the council if you do. Draco was confused before a bolt of lightning struck him out of nowhere. Naruto held the spear on his shoulders as he looked at the wizard with a little worry. This guy was physically tough, but his control of magic was basic at best. He guessed that he was unable to push off the gravity magic in time for him to hit him with enough magic to knock him out. You're lucky I learned to control my magic, Naruto said as he heard a team of mages arriving. He chuckled to himself as he looked up to see the hole he created in the ceiling. He had to be flashy if he was going to get better paying jobs. The door was pushed open as he saw 3 mages come in. Are you from Lamia Scale? Naruto said as he looked at Jura specifically. He knew of the Wizard Saint, a class beyond S-class. He also knew of the 2 people beside him, the Ice Wizard and the Godslayer. So you came here just when I finished. Naruto said, sounding disappointed as he looked around the room filled with unconscious mages. I really wanted to see the power of a Wizard Saint. Did you defeat all these mages? The young girl with pink hair asked as Naruto crossed his fingers as 10 replicas of himself appeared out of smoke. You made more of yourself. The Ice Wizard said as he was suddenly surprised as 2 clones picked up the giant man while the other 8 picked up his accomplices. Yeah, kinda handy, especially when you're fighting many opponents alone. Naruto said as he leaned on a wall. You must be strong to take such formidable odds. Jiraiya finally spoke, catching Naruto's attention. Naruto stared at Jiraiya for a few seconds before shaking his head in denial. I'm not, they are just too weak. Naruto said as the last of his clones took the final dark mage out of their secret hideout and towards the closest run night post. I'll be heading on my way. Naruto said before Jiraiya stopped him. Are you ever tired of being alone? Jiraiya asked as Naruto shook his head. I'm never alone with a voice inside my head. Naruto said as he left the group confused. Naruto. Naruto heard Labyrinth speak within his mind as he stopped outside. What is it? Naruto asked Labyrinth, only for him to feel a distant feeling to his right. He would stare off to the distance before he felt that dark feeling disappear. That was Aknologia's power. Labyrinth said as Naruto nodded his head. After seeing visions of him dying by Aknologia, he decided that the best course of action would be for him to become stronger. Naruto materialized wings on his back as he took to the air to arrive at a close rune night post for him to get his bounty. A small dark guild was not much of a payday unless they did something worthwhile. This dark guild decided to attack a bunch of merchants that happened to know royalty. Naruto chuckled for a bit before his surroundings changed again. He watched as a boy with red eyes stared up at him. Around him were other humans with dazed eyes, all hurt by an apparent battle. He's staring at me. Naruto said as he assumed that he was seeing another event that happened or will happen. Naruto was confused before he held his hand in front of him. His left eyes changed to that of rings. Naruto was suddenly pulled forward before he was being choked by said person. Takra must die for peace to occur. Naruto's eyes widened before his surroundings changed back as Naruto gasped for air. That felt so real. Naruto said as he held his head. I'm sorry Naruto. Naruto heard Labyrinth say. My power is too much for you, Labyrinth said that Naruto just brushed it off as he picked himself off the floor and summoned the wings once more. Don't you worry about it, I asked for strong magic, Naruto said as he still breathed hard from that realistic vision. Now I'll have to face anything that comes from it. Besides, I'll just master it, Naruto said as he controlled his breathing. He smiled as he saw the post. He sped up towards his payday with no worries about the side effects of being exposed to Labyrinth powers. Is that really Naruto? Bisca said while holding her young daughter. She was one of the few mages that was able to keep Fairy Tail afloat, but after Asuka she had to slow down. That grin says it all. Wabaka said as he grabbed the paper to look closely. He smiled warmly as he noticed a drastic change in appearance from that little boy he once was. From loudmouth brat to saving a princess, that kid did grow up, Wabaka said as he looked at his best friend. Mikao looked down in shame, wondering if Naruto not staying was the best for him. See dad. Naruto saved the princess from being kidnapped by strong dark mages. He can help us get back on top. Romeo said passionately as he was tired of Fairy Tail being the way it is. Losing the strong core of Fairy Tail caused a decline in finances and the loss of members. He wanted to see Fairy Tail like it used to be. I tried to get him back Romeo. I tried Mikao finally spoke out as he rubbed his forehead. He just left and refused to return. Once a Fairy Tail member, always a Fairy Tail member. Romeo retorted, causing Mikao to frown at him. Mikao laid his hand on top of Romeo's head, speaking softly to him. I'm sorry for everything that happened Romeo. I wish things could change back to normal, but it can't. Natsu and everyone else aren't here anymore, Mikao said with a frown, causing Kanana to look at the boy with pity. Romeo nodded as he went back to his table and opened his book. Mikao, seems Blue Pegasus is coming to visit. Wabaka said as he looked out the window to see Blue Pegasus's airship begin to land. I wonder what they want. Hey lay her, Naruto said as he walked out of the bounty room, counting his money. He didn't even have to look up to know it was him, since Lei-her always seeked him out for missions. Have any dark guilds you want destroyed? Actually, I need you for something more complicated this time. Lei-her said as he began walking next to the mage the magic council had been contracting. Well, infiltrating dark guilds is already complicated, what makes this different? Lei-her stepped in front of Naruto, stopping him immediately. Naruto put his money away as he leaned his head in curiosity. I want you to infiltrate a legal guild. Naruto mockingly smiled at the Rune Knight commander. He always knew the Magic Council had its past with corruption, but he did not really care. After time alone, it became difficult getting work without a guild affiliation. It wasn't until Kagura and him stopped looking for her brother he figured out a way to get higher paying jobs that gave him enough space for him to continue his training without worrying about food or where he would rest. How much for this job? Naruto asked Lei-her, who held out 2 fingers. Naruto shook his head and held out 3. Lei-her smiled and accepted, knowing the job was risky enough for 3 million jewels. I want you to infiltrate Raven Tail using no disguise. Naruto actually frowned on this information. Most of his successful infiltration involved a disguise clone using a transformation spell, replacing a dark mage he intercepted. Then the real him would attack when he knew they were at a vulnerable state. And why is that? Naruto asked, curious on why the guild that recently was recognized as legal needed him out of a disguise. Because they will accept you as a member without any question. Leher said as he gave him a simple escort request. You will escort a merchant to Noah, a town close to Raventail's headquarters. You are to stay there and have a drink, enough time for them to hear of your presence. Naruto nodded as he folded the paper and put it in his pocket. They will not miss their chance in recruiting a strong mage like you, so don't worry. I need you just in time for the next Grand Magic Games. Leher said as he turned to leave. Especially now that they returned. Naruto looked confused by Leher's words before leaving the opposite way. He always wanted to test out his power in the Grandmaster Games, especially knowing Kagura is mostly likely going to be there. But I'm going and not as a fairy tale mage, Naruto said with a frown as he thought of the guild he would join. Ivan Drayer, father of Laxus and son of Makarov. He was joining the guild of that man. And I was honestly going to get more written, but I will save it for the next chapter, X791 arc. It's short, but I want to do the introduction to the Grand Magic Games and reveal where Naruto will be in it. I was honestly going to decide Sabretooth, but I like the tie I made with Minerva. I also changed the timeline in which Labyrinth was sealed into Naruto before his fight with Acnologia. I like the story of chakra being a forgotten power thanks to Sasuke erasing it from history. Naruto's current arsenal isn't flashy or god level, but it's still a build up to what Naruto can do. His takeover magic makes him god level, but Naruto is not a killer. His combination of requip, gravity magic and chakra, plus a minor, makes him a strong opponent. Please review and let me know of what you think of the many stuff that is yet to be expected. How did Sasuke erase chakra? How is Naruto in the future? How will Fairy Tail react to Naruto's rise in power? How will Kagura react? It was a cold night at a local tavern in Noah, a town surrounded by a forest. Naruto ignored the local drunks and the women who wanted to drink with Naruto. You know, we never see many mages around here. Naruto looked to his side as he noticed who the person next to him was and he couldn't help from smiling. Next to him sat Ivan with a mug filled to the brim with alcohol. Ivan Drayer, master of Raventail. Naruto said as he took a big drink of his own beer. You know who I am? Did your employers tell you of me? Ivan asked the young blonde. Naruto simply smiled at Ivan's suspicion before taking out a small notebook and tossing it towards Ivan. Ivan catched the notebook before opening it. He noticed the names of strong guilds with the name of their strongest members. He flipped through pages until he landed on a page titled Raventail. I gather information on guilds I do missions around. Naruto said as he looked at Ivan carefully. Especially if said guild was once dark. So you only know who I am based on my past. Ivan said as he took a drink of his own beer. But the past is the past. I agree, I assume you know I was once a fairy tale mage. Naruto asked with Ivan simply nodding. You left because they became a shell of their former selves. Ivan asked, which Naruto shook his head in denial. I left before they fell. I left because they looked down on me for being weak. Naruto exaggerated his feelings for his former home. He still loved Fairy Tail, but he needed to infiltrate Raventail. Using Ivan's resentment for his former home would help him earn Ivan's trust. But now I'm not and I want to show them. Especially now that Makarov and their strong core has returned. Ivan said, addressing his father by his name. Naruto's eyes widened as he turned to Ivan. Ivan smiled as he stood up from his table and walked over to Naruto's. He sat across from him and smiled at the shocked Naruto. Did you not know that they returned? Naruto did not answer as he was still shocked by the news. The people he loved, presumed dead, have returned. Do you wish to return back to Fairy Tail? Ivan asked carefully to get Naruto back from his surprise. Naruto had to act quickly or he would fail this mission. He grabbed his cup and downed the whole drink before slamming it on the table. Did you know I was seen as a burden to them? Naruto said as he recalled events like Laxa speaking ill of him. Your own son told me I was a disgrace, so why should a disgrace return? But you are not the same as you once were. Ivan said as he leaned forward. I know of your accomplishments, I know much about you, Naruto. Join my guild, I'll make it a place where you will recognize the strength you hold within you. Hades said with a smile, causing Naruto to act shocked. Something seems off. Naruto could hear Labyrinth's words, but Naruto had to continue his mission. Naruto brushed his locks back before asking a simple question. If I join, Naruto asked as his right index finger began tapping the table, showing a false sign of insecurity. Will you help me? Help me get strong enough to prove Fairy Tail wrong? Naruto asked, which Ivan nodded before he held his right hand forward. Naruto smiled as he took said hand, shaking it in confirmation. Ivan laughed before standing up and tossing a bag of jewels towards the bartender. Come, let me show you your new home. Ivan said as he began walking towards the exit. Naruto nodded as he followed Ivan out of the tavern and toward the Raven Tail Guild Hall. This man, Labyrinth said from within Naruto's mind. Naruto followed Ivan in silence, deciding to entertain Labyrinth. This man is the guild master of the guild I have to join, so don't go distracting me. Naruto said before he suddenly felt him losing complete contact with Labyrinth. He was confused before a violet-skinned man blindsided him with a punch. Naruto hit a giant rock at Noah's entrance so hard he fell unconscious. 2 days ago. Hey everybody, guess who is finally back? Natsu said with a huge grin as the strongest members of Fairy Tail returned back after 7 years. Natsu smiled as he noticed the sobbing face of an older Romeo before he ran up to Natsu and hugged him. I can't believe it's really you guys. Romeo said as he stepped back to see everyone that disappeared 7 years ago, all in front of him. He wasn't the only one excited as the members who were loyal and stayed with Fairy Tail all this time came running towards the friends they thought they lost forever. So you got stronger, Romeo. Natsu made an observation as Natsu watched Romeo show the different types of flames he could now create. Romeo told him and Gagiel that he has been taking lessons from Totemaru, Gagiel's former guildmate. Oh, that brings back memories, I still need to taste the rest of his flames. Natsu said as he remembered his fight with him. Oh, sweet. Flame Buffet, here I come. I don't think Master Totemaru is very interested in seeing you, Natsu. Romeo pointed out, which caused laughter. I got to admit, Mikao. I never expected you to wear the big shoes. Makarov said as he drank with Wabaka and Mikao. Well, they never quite fit me. Let's just say I was keeping them warm for you. Mikao said as he looked down at the third guild master. Now that you're back, I can enjoy a stiff drink. Mikao said with a chuckle as Wabaka grinned behind Makarov. Oh, and here I was, thinking of letting you keep the position. Makarov said as he chuckled as Mikao grinned wide at the thought of being the true fourth guild master of Fairy Tail. You're married, Urza said with shock as she looked at Biska and Alzak. Congratulations, when did this happen? About 6 years ago. Alzak said as Biska smiled at the memories of when she proposed. Urza became erratic of not being there, causing Mira and her siblings to smile at her actions. Actually, we have a daughter, her name is Asuka. Biska said after Lisana approached the married pair, wondering if they had children. Mira listened before she remembered someone important not being around. Elfman noticed this and asked his sister why she looked worried. What's wrong, Mira? Elfman asked his older sister, who turned back to him. I don't see Naruto anywhere. Mira said, worried if something happened to Naruto while they were gone. Urza also realized this and turned to Mikao, who overheard them. He rubbed the back of his head as he glanced towards Makarov, who actually looked serious about the whereabouts of Naruto. Mikao was wondering how to tell them that Naruto has left. Naruto was special to all of the Tenru group, even if their relationship with Naruto is what pushed him away. He left Fairy Tail. Romeo said as his eyes stared at the wooden table. Naruto was always nice to him when he was younger, even playing with him when his father was away on missions. No one said anything until they noticed Urza move towards the door. I see, do you have any leads on where he might be? Urza said as if she was ready to head out and look for him. Because I need to know how far I have to drag him for. Urza, wait, Lucy called out to the S-class mage. You can't just drag him back. And why not? Urza said as she turned towards the celestial mage. He decides to run off while we are away. Why did he leave anyways? Was it really because he wasn't nominated to be S-class? I mean, we weren't even considered at his age. Gray said as he looked at Natsu, who was unusually quiet. It was more than that. Makarov finally spoke. We made him feel like a burden to us. But he wasn't, we just never wanted to see him get hurt. Urza said as she stayed to listen once her master spoke. He learned to fight, but that was not enough. He was still vulnerable to magic, he was still not strong enough. I wonder how strong Naruto got all this time. Everyone turned to see a grinning Natsu who finally spoke. He held 2 flaming fists in front of him as he said with glee. Oh, I so want to fight him now. You idiot, how are you going to fight him if you don't know where he is? Gray said, mocking his rival. Natsu glared at Gray before holding a flaming fist up. Well, I was going to find him, stupid. Gray also became ticked off as he also held his hand up, ready to use his ice make magic. We don't have the budget to support the old guild brawl. Mikao said as he ran towards the 2, who were waiting any second to brawl. Everyone smiled at the 2, knowing full well what Natsu did. Lucy smiled at Natsu while Lisana turned to look at her sister. Lisana knew that Naruto was the reason Mira stopped crying when she disappeared, so she understood if Mira felt some form of guilt for Naruto's absence. Ah, what the hell, Naruto said as he began waking from unconsciousness. He looked around, noticing he was standing in the middle of a wasteland. Sorry for doing this, Naruto, but I couldn't just accept just anyone into Raven Tail. Naruto looked up to see Ivan standing on top of a giant boulder, arms crossed as he gave a sinister smile towards Naruto. "So you knock them out and send them to a wasteland?" Naruto asked as he glared at Ivan suspiciously. Naruto also noticed there were more people around him before he noticed the violet-skinned man that attacked him. "I just picked a place where we would cause less trouble," Ivan said as the violet-skinned man ran at Naruto as both his fists changed. Naruto also felt his magic disappear again, but he didn't let that distract him. He palmed the strike away before landing a hard palm to his face. The man stepped back stunned, but Naruto had no time to react as he had to jump back as the Redeed's hair shot out towards Naruto. He noticed the hair covered with some sort of magic that made it scorching hot, so he had to stay evading to avoid any serious damage. "That blue guy erased my magic," Naruto said as he still felt his chakra. Chakra being more dense and passing throughout his body made it hard to be eliminated like his basic magical ability. He crossed his fingers as 5 identical clones appeared next to him. One threw a kunai at the Redeed. She didn't expect the small projectile, causing the kunai to pierce her thigh. As the fire-based hair attack stopped coming, Naruto quickly ducked. The mage that was meant to attack Naruto's rear using his mimic magic was confused until Naruto positioned his body to land a powerful upward kick. The other clones quickly followed with more punches until one clone landed a kick strong enough to knock the mimic mage out. He noticed the violet-skinned mage close to him with his whole body now covered with spikes. Naruto, still unable to use his magic, decided to fall back and dodge every attack. "Are you going to keep running away?" He mocked Naruto, who ignored Nilpiting as his eyes were on that mage behind Ivan. "Well, by how slow you punch, I would have beaten you too," Naruto said as he was still trying to figure out how to get his power back. His usage with chakra was very limited due to a little or no information about chakra, and he wasn't able to use any magic. He didn't know many spells either, but at least he could have summoned a longer weapon than the kunai he had in his side pouch. Ukaki Naruto ducked a punch before landing a strong enough body blow. Naruto's fist stayed connected to his stomach as Nilpiting gasped for air. "You should have grown spikes everywhere, you know, maybe you could have won if you did." Naruto let the violet-skinned man fall to the floor, holding his stomach in pain. He looked around to see that Redeed crying in agony thanks to the kunai and that other mage, he remembered being named Kurohebi, unconscious on the floor. He turned towards Ivan as he took turns in pointing at both mages. "So do I beat that guy up too, or are you both going to come at me?" Naruto said, causing Ivan to clap. Abra stayed quiet as Ivan hopped off the rock and towards Naruto. "You were able to defeat my elite." Naruto's eyes widened when he heard they were Raven Tail's elite. He was able to beat Raven Tail's best without his gravity magic or his requip. Even with Abra cancelling out your magic. "How were you able to replicate yourself without magic, if I may ask?" "Well, I have a special type of magic that allows me to have my magic circulate around my whole body," Naruto said, telling half of the truth. "Interesting, so Abra only erased part of your magic." Naruto narrowed his eyes at Abra, knowing that it was all his magic that he lost. "Enough of this, you proved your worth to me, so here I stand, offering you a spot in my elite. I want you to lead my team in this incoming Grand Magic Games where Makarov is surely to be." Ivan wickedly smirked at the idea of beating Makarov and Fairy Tail, thanks to his new member. He smirked wider as he nodded and headed towards Flare first. He healed her up as his hand partially changed. He would then head towards Nilpiting and Kurohebi. But having a chakra user makes this even more fun. And "Geez, Ivan, why do I have to wear all this armor?" Naruto argued as he noticed the golden armor with the giant cape. "I'm not going to be able to fight like this, you know." "Quiet boy, I want to surprise Makarov is all." Naruto shook his head in slight embarrassment for the man he now has to call master. Months have passed since joining Raven Tail, and he had to admit it wasn't so bad. Kurohebi did creep him out, but Nilpiting was actually pretty polite if you knew him. He actually liked Flare more than any other member there. She had problems with her past, but Naruto knew that dealing with those issues would help her overcome her crazy look she always sports. He also actually enjoyed the idea of resting after 7 years of traveling all over Fiori. He had a lot of money saved from his freelance missions, so he started renting a small house in Noah, the town that bordered Raven Tail. "Sheesh, you really think me being in Raven Tail would anger Makarov? I mean, they lost many members over the years and I wasn't even their strongest. I doubt they would be shocked to see me," Naruto said as he stared at the helmet he was supposed to wear. "Do not lie to me, boy, I know how much my father cares about you. He practically raised you as his own." Naruto knew that everything Ivan said was true. He was only 5 when Makarov found him and grew up there. Yeah, whatever, Naruto said as he put on his helmet as he turned to his partners for the Grand Magic Games. "How do I look?" "You look menacing, boss," Flare said, causing Naruto to sigh. He always had the feeling that Flare was scared of him after the fight. He didn't mean to impale her leg, but he was facing 4 of Raventail's strongest. I have to admit, it isn't that bad. Nulping said as Kurehebi just smirked at Naruto and Abra just stood there quiet. You sure your spy didn't inform Makarov of me anyways? Naruto said as he turned to Ivan, who shook his head. No, I wanted it to be a surprise. I even had to make sure Gajiel didn't know of Naruto joining Raventail. Ivan said as he looked at the rest of his guild. We can beat Fairy Tail, and I can get my hands on Lumen Histoire. Naruto clearly heard those words come out of Ivan's mouth as he stayed silent as he processed this new information. Something called Lumen Histoire is what Ivan seeks. Naruto said as Ivan and his gathered mages for the Grand Magic Games heading out of their guild building and towards the direction of the capital, where the tournament will be held. Naruto stared at his guildmates and shook his head in disappointment. Kurehebi and Nulping would follow Ivan to death if they had to, and Flare would only follow too, since she was beaten to obey him without question. Abra was the hard one to decipher. He never spoke and never showed any reaction to anything. Actually, Naruto was more wary of him than anyone in Raventail, including Ivan. We should be at the capital by tomorrow. Ivan said as he stepped into a magic-powered vehicle that would take all of them to the capital, where the Grand Magic Games would be held. Naruto followed his guild, ready to fight stronger opponents than he was used to and see some old faces. Damn, you guys end up being alive, and here I am, a Raventail mage. Naruto thought of the irony that was in place as he sat there in silence. Seems the games have already begun, Naruto said as he crossed his fingers, summoning 25 clones ready to finish this as quickly as possible. Naruto hopped off the top floor at the building they were renting for the event. He smiled as his team also came out of the building, uniting all of them. Naruto and his team watched as Naruto's clones ran up the stairs first and all went different directions. My clones will find us the right path, so follow me. Naruto said as he ran up the stairs with his team following. And how are they going to do that? Kurehebi asked as he noticed he stopped for a second then turned left. He crossed his fingers again as 4 more clones appeared, they went straight, causing Naruto to turn to his team. They find the right direction. Naruto said as he pointed towards a group to their upper right. Nulping noticed that these people were confused as they looked around. This whole place is a maze, if you don't choose the right direction you return back to the place you started. Kurehebi nodded at Naruto who turned towards the projection of the pumpkin. Seems like something is up, Naruto said before he noticed the whole structure shift and turn, so some mages fell. Naruto quickly summoned 4 clones that got his teammates and hopped towards a safe spot. Well, some groups are eliminated, Naruto said as he jumped off and landed next to Abra. Guess we should find the exit. Oh, my clone found it. Naruto smirked before running up towards an unusual door he found. Hurry up before the structure changes again. Urza, Natsu, Lucy, Gray and Elfman. Naruto said as he leaned towards the tunnel where he and his team will step out from. Geez Gramps, I would have thought Gajiel, Laxus or Gildert's in that team. He pushed himself off the wall as he put his helmet back on. He didn't really care for the Theatrix, but Ivan really wants him to surprise his father. It's our turn now, Naruto said as he turned outside, looking particularly at Kagura. He smiled as he saw her with her new guild. Naruto noticed the dark smoke and crow feathers flying in the air. He sighed at Ivan's decision for their entrance as he and his team stepped out and joined the rest of the teams. He noticed the stairs then heard Makarov screaming for officials. He began laughing from Makarov's freaking out over their appearance here at the Grand Magic Games. Natsu glared at him as he said. What are you laughing at, punk? Natsu said, causing Naruto to look at Ivan. He nodded, causing Naruto to sigh. He actually decided to ignore Ivan in having himself revealed in such matters. He wanted to stay in disguise, but he noticed Natsu's eyes widened. He was confused for a little while until he noticed his nose twitch. Naruto's eyes widened as he assumed that Naruto used his strong sense of smell to identify him. Natsu asked as he stared at the disguised Naruto. Why do you smell so familiar? Naruto said nothing, sighing in some relief that Natsu still didn't know who he truly was. What do you mean, Natsu? Lucy asked in confusion. The kinda smells like someone I knew, Naruto now was shocked. Urza's eye widened with this information, but Natsu said more information. Like Igneal. Makarov, that man, Mavis said as she contemplated why she can feel a fairy tale mark on him. She wanted to question Makarov about that man, but the next group was revealed to be Fairy Tail B. Mavis smiled as Makarov began cheering for the other team, but she was still curious about that armored man. She felt like he was connected to Fairy Tail, as if he was a member. He has a guild mark, Mavis thought, as if wondering why she felt 3 different energies from him. You must have been worried, boss. Nulping said, grinning at the Fairy Tail mage who were now surprised by the appearance by a second Fairy Tail team. No, Naruto said as he brought his hand up to adjust his helmet. He was anxious, actually worried that his identity was revealed. But our master will want you to reveal yourself to them. Kurehebi said as Naruto's eyes turned to Laxus. He was excommunicated from the guild after he made fairy tale mages fight each other. Makarov and many others almost died because of him, but here he stood, a fairy tale mage. He gritted his teeth as he narrowed his eyes, causing him to leak magical pressure. Laxus turned to Naruto and narrowed his eyes, wondering who this mage was. "Seems someone doesn't like me." Laxus commented with a mocking smile as he stared at his father's guild. All of Raven Tail grinned at Laxus, while Naruto clenched his fist as fury overtook him. "Why would I?" Naruto said, causing all fairy tale mages to look back at him. They all felt his power spike when he turned to look at Laxus. "How can fairy tale accept someone like you back?" Naruto said quietly to himself as even more magic was released. Laxus grinned as lightning sparks surrounded him as well. "Guess you want to fight now, huh?" Laxus said, mocking a more angry Naruto. "Please stop, fighting before the tournament starts will only cause your guilds to be disqualified." The man hiding behind the pumpkin said nervously, nervous by the two mages releasing their strong magic power. "I would like to beat someone from my dad's guild right now, but it would make our whole trip here meaningless." Laxus said as he stopped releasing his magic. Naruto did so as well, as turned away from him. "I agree, I'll just have to wait to beat you to a pulp," Naruto said as he watched Laxus grin. He was going to get enraged again, but he noticed the way Murahin looked at him. Her eyes didn't show her being enraged at him, but instead she showed worry. His rage calmed, instead he looked down. He was unable to look at the girl that looked out for him since she first arrived at Fairy Tail. Having Laxus return did shock him after everything he did during the Magnolia Harvest Festival, but he couldn't deny his other feelings. Watching Urza, Natsu, Gray and Lucy down here in the arena made him reminisce about those brawls he watched happen because of these four. "Now that things have calmed down, let me introduce the team that arrived before all other guilds." They walked confidently as both Dragon Slayers stared at Natsu and Gagiel. Naruto noticed that Minerva was not in the lineup, confusing him since she was their strongest member. He also noticed Yukino turn to him and stare at him for a few seconds before turning away. "We kept our audience waiting long enough." Naruto stepped back as a huge rectangular crafted stone rose from the ground, showing the schedule for the remainder of the tournament. Another similar stone rose next to it that showed how they were going to be scored for the remainder of the tournament. "So winning a battle is 10 points, huh?" Naruto commented as he had his eyes on Laxus. He held no malice for Fairy Tail, but he knew that holding a grudge was part of the identity he created to infiltrate Raven Tail. He still held some anger towards Laxus for hurting his former guild, but he didn't just hold anger for the Lightning Mage. No, he was anticipating fighting him the most. He showed him that he was one of the strongest even though his arrogance annoyed Naruto. Naruto knew power, and he had to admit Laxus was powerful. So for him to beat Laxus would not only show everyone that he was no longer the same weak boy they worried for, but now he was a mage that can fight. "Boss, you're getting distracted again," Flare said, causing him to look away from Laxus. He turned to Flare, who explained that a contest called Hidden was going to happen and they had to choose someone to represent this event. "I was thinking of going first," Nulpeting said, causing Naruto to shake his head. Instead he stepped forward for his team. After the announcer called out the mages from Kyorto Cerberus, Mermaid Heel and Blue Pegasus, he picked up the Raven Tail listed names and called out Naruto's name. And representing the mages of Raven Tail, Fishcake. Naruto was livid. The moment he heard Natsu laugh from his spot with the others of Fairy Tail A, he knew that Ivan was to blame for using his council-given nickname. "Ahaha, you're called Fishcake," Natsu said, pointing at Naruto, while Lucy had one hand covering her mouth, trying hard to not let out a laughter. Naruto blushed underneath his helmet as he noticed Gagiel and Laxus also chuckling from just his name. While the Tenru group had fun knowing the intimidating armored mage was called Fishcake, the ones who stayed those 7 years didn't. Not only them, but those in the audience and even some mages fighting in the Grand Magic Games were alerted by that mage name. "That name, why does it sound so familiar?" Mikao said as Makarov was laughing hard at the mage's name. Other mages were wondering as well, while the audience murmured about the mage. "Isn't he the one that saved the princess?" A male in the audience was heard saying. "The Beast Slayer? Didn't he destroy a whole dark guild by himself?" The murmuring continued, but that made Naruto feel extra embarrassed. He felt that they were laughing at the name that the Magic Council made up for him. "I swear," Naruto said to himself as he glared at the direct Ivan was. "I swear you are going to pay for this." "It's not so serious," Flare said, trying to calm the man that she was afraid of. Naruto nodded at her as he looked forward, ready to finish this battle as soon as possible. He heard the other mages' names be called, but he didn't care anymore. Today he will end the name of Fishcake. Even if he has to beat some few mages to do it. After all mages from each guild was called, the remaining mages of each guild left the participants for the challenge. After Gray decided to ask the being behind the pumpkin what exactly it was, Naruto decided to ask an important question towards the judge. I actually have a question, not only for the challenge but the rest of the tournament. Naruto said as he looked towards Gray and Juvia. Isn't having two mages from the same guild kinda cheating? Even if they are different teams. Naruto implied, causing the pumpkin to explain towards him. Well, it can't be helped, it's amazing that two teams from the same guild would make it this far as it is. Naruto nodded as Rufus didn't mind the circumstance as he pointed out that having someone from the same guild could actually be a disadvantage. Fine, whatever. Let's just get this over with. Naruto said as he didn't care anymore and wanted the challenge to begin. The pumpkin nodded as a town materialized, splitting the participants up. He admired the detail before walking around wondering how this event is supposed to be won. He thought that this was probably a game of hide and seek, but he noticed a change in his surroundings. He watched as copies materialized around him. In this game, the participants are the hider and the seeker. You will receive 1 point if you strike another, but be deducted a point if you attack a copy. Naruto nodded as he noticed Juvia from Fairy Tail B lose a point. Losing a point will cause you to restart after 10 seconds at a different location. Naruto heard the announcer explain the next set of rules, causing Naruto to think of a strategy to win this. He suspected that his clone would not affect his points since they were his magic, so he crossed his fingers and created 10 clones that acted as bait. He quickly acted when he felt one of his clones pop. He followed the trail to find a confused Gray as he stared at the cloud in confusion. Why didn't I get points? I'm sure that was him. Gray said to himself as Naruto threw a quick punch that earned him a point. He nodded in satisfaction, but tried to avoid an attack that surprised him. He avoided the first ice make attack from Lion, but tripping on his own cape made him unable to dodge the next one. Too easy. Naruto heard Lion say as he scored a quick point thanks to Naruto. Once Naruto appeared at a different spot, he ripped off his cape in anger. Stupid cape. Naruto said as he also took off the armor, leaving him with only a long-sleeved black shirt. Stupid armor doesn't let me move, and stupid helmet doesn't let me see. Naruto threw his helmet away as he crossed his fingers as he used massive amounts of chakra and summoned more clones. Thanks to knowing that his score is not affected by his clones, he decided to rack up points fast. He quickly used chakra to climb up a building to get a better view, noticing one mage was looking around in confusion. The mermaid heel thought she surprised one Raven Tail mage, but she didn't receive any points. As the Kyoto Cerberus mage tried to attack her, Naruto's clone attacked both, getting him 2 points. Since this is my magic, I guess it counts if I hit them using shadow clones. Naruto thought to himself as he thought this game would be easier thanks to his chakra. He climbed to a higher building, using his better control of chakra and magic to allow him to use a partial takeover. His eyes changed as he used his enhanced vision to look around before he noticed Makarov in the stance. His eyes were wide with shock, while people like Lysana had her hand covering her mouth. It seems his impatience caused him to reveal himself as the mage who left. Being in Raven Tail makes it worse. Sorry Gramps, Naruto thought to himself as he looked down at the fighting. He clenched his fist and held his head high as he stared at him. But don't look away. I want you to see how strong I have become. And? That's definitely him. Mikao said beside the cheering Fairy Tail, who did not participate in this tournament. He turned towards Makarov to a look of betrayal. His hands were clenched as his wide eyes looked at the boy he helped raise. But why is he in Raven Tail? Wabaka said beside his friend, wondering why Naruto would be with a guild that despised Fairy Tail. He also looked down in anger as he turned to Lysana. He knew how close Lysana and Naruto were growing up, so it pained him to see her look of horror. Her hands covered her mouth as tears threatened to fall. Naruto was the most overjoyed in seeing Lysana again. He was the first to hug her when Mira and Elfman brought her into the guild after she returned from the parallel world known as Adolas. So for Naruto to be aligned with a guild that was once considered a dark guild, she became worried. That boy, was he important to you? Mavis asked Makarov, who solemnly nodded. He turned to the first master and answered her question more thoroughly. I found and raised him as my own, Makarov said, remembering finding a crying 5-year-old Naruto. He couldn't remember why he was alone in the forest or why he was holding a book with no written words, which made Makarov take him to Fairy Tail and watch over the amnesiac boy while he remembered where his parents were or where his home was. Makarov didn't say any more as he had his eyes on where Ivan was. Even though they were far apart, Makarov could tell that Ivan was enjoying this very moment. I'll make you pay, Ivan. Makarov thought to himself as he turned back to the arena as Naruto was just eliminated by the saber-tooth mage. Naruto was shocked. While he was looking towards the direction of Fairy Tail's master, a golden shot toward him and hit him while he was distracted. Naruto appeared at a different spot in the arena and turned towards the scoreboard, in which he noticed that Sabertooth had gained enough points for second place. Naruto summoned more clones that ran beside him up the building towards the direction that Sabertooth mage was last at. He jumped beside his clones to make sure they were being used as cover as he got closer. He could see him a few feet away, but a giant spike made of ice shot towards Naruto, destroying the two clones that were in front of him. So it really is you, huh? Gray said as 3 replicas of Naruto stayed, while 4 other Narutos ran towards the saber-tooth mage. Surprised? Naruto asked simply as Gray smiled before slamming his closed fist to his open palm. He prepared his ice make magic as Naruto nodded as he pulled out a kunai. Yeah, I was, Gray said. A lance made of ice shot towards Naruto, destroying the roof where the 3 stood. Gray smiled as he turned to see Naruto standing at a neighboring building, standing on the sides. I'm surprised to see that little Naruto grew up and became an actual mage. Yeah, I grew up. Naruto said as he walked down the side of the building. By the way, I hope you remember that I wasn't alone. Gray narrowly dodged a strike from a clone that nearly surprised him, but he forgot to defend himself as another attacked once Gray turned for the first surprise attack. Naruto's clone landed a kick, causing Gray to disappear after losing a point. Naruto quickly turned around as Eve, the blue Pegasus mage, was preparing to hit Naruto with his snow magic. Naruto turned his kunai around and through the rear, hitting Eve right on his forehead. Eve also disappeared before Naruto was hit by a golden light again. All Naruto could do was smirk as he disappeared and formed a small cloud. Whoa, Naruto knocked out Gray. Natsu yelled in shock. Lucy was also surprised by Naruto's getting the better of Gray. Alongside her team, she was also surprised by Naruto's revelation, but not more than Urza. Did you also see him beat that blue Pegasus guy like nothing? Urza clenched her fists as she silently stared at the boy she watched over in her guild. Now that boy was a member of a former dark guild whose master is the excommunicated son of Makarov. He's incredible, Lucy said as the kind young boy she once knew quickly defeated Eve without much haste. And I thought he couldn't use magic. Elfman commented as the Naruto that was fighting Gray was attacked by the saber-tooth mage named Rufus Lore. He watched as Naruto ended up being a clone when he popped out of existence. I know. I never knew you could use magic to clone yourself. Did you also see him sticking to the walls? Natsu commented, excited by the idea that Naruto grew strong. Wait, what is going on there? Lucy commented as Lacrima showed Naruto and Rufus staring at each other. Are you surprised that you didn't hit me? Naruto asked with a smile. Rufus smiled back and was about to respond, but he vanished when a kunai flew through him. Naruto turned to see Rufus standing on top of the same roof as he was. You didn't let me say a single word. Well, I saw an opening and I went for it. Naruto said with a smirk as he ran towards Rufus with a kunai in his hand. Naruto uses chakra to speed up his movements to reach Rufus, but before he can land a hit, Rufus's appearance changes to that of Makarov. He hesitated, allowing Rufus to take advantage. Naruto was hit by the golden light, but he smirked before a smoke cloud replaced the clone. Rufus didn't dodge as the real Naruto landed a hit. Seems I got you. Naruto said as Rufus disappeared. He looked up again to see what the current score was. First Raven Tail Fishcake plus 10. Second Sabertooth Rufus plus 7. Third Lamia Scale Lion plus 3. Fourth Mermaid Heel Beth plus 1. Fourth Blue Pegasus Eve plus 1. 6 Quattro Cerberus 0. 7th Fairy Tail B Juvia minus 1. 8 Fairy Tail A Grey minus 2. Seems I'm winning. Naruto took a deep breath as he contemplated summoning more clones to go find more points. Most of his clones were actually defeated by Juvia, who was west of him. He actually felt a couple more clones lose to Lion, who was also close to him. Maybe I should go and hide. Naruto contemplated whether to conserve his chakra since he had used too much to form too many clones. I don't even know if I'm going to fight next round or not. He didn't have much time to think as he had to jump back up to his feet to dodge Rufus's spell again. Naruto watched as Rufus materialize close to him again. You found me, I guess. Naruto said as the last clone's memory returned to him. He smiled as he regained better control of his magic now that his power was split thanks to his clones. You earned my respect by beating me in our last battle. Rufus said with a smile as Naruto nodded at him too. But I won't allow that this time. We don't have much time left, you know. Naruto said, referring to the game's time limit that was close to expiring. Do you really think you can hit me before our times run out? Memory make. And Night of Falling Stars. Partial takeover. Naruto sprouted wings as he took to the sky and maneuvered around each attack Rufus sent his way. Naruto noticed that they would not stop targeting him, so his hands also transformed. His hands now covered by black scales held out his hands as Rufus's magic came closer. Labyrinth's touch. The magic didn't reach Naruto, as if it decimated before reaching Naruto's palms. He turned towards the shocked saber-tooth mage and smiled towards him in a mocking manner. Sorry, but your attacks won't reach me. Naruto said as he flew higher as he dodged Lion's ice make magic. He smirked as eagles made of ice tried to hit him. Wait, the kid knows takeover magic. That's what he said, right? Takeover Gajila asked the rest of Fairy Tail B as they watched Naruto sprout wings and fly. Did you teach him that? Laxus asked Marahin Strauss. She shook her head as she watched closely as Naruto dodged the saber-tooth mage's attacks. The ones he didn't dodge, he nullified with his own hands. How far have you come, Naruto? Marahin mentally asked as she watched Naruto move swiftly through the air as the saber-tooth mage could not land a hit. It got more complicated now that more of the contestants arrived where Naruto and Rufus were fighting. Naruto laughed as he watched the bothered face of Lamia Scales Lion. He wanted to enjoy teasing Lion more, but he saw something that shocked him. He was watching Marahin Strauss fall from the sky, injured and in her Satan soul. Naruto flew to get her, but she disappeared and a golden light formed as an arrow flew straight at him. He was hit hard by Rufus's attack. Seems your memory is your worst enemy. Rufus said with a smile as Naruto disappeared. He looked at the score, smiling as he was now done by 1 point. He disappeared and reappeared behind Lion as he dodged an attack. Fishcake isn't the only one to look out for. Rufus said as he dodged 2 more attacks, a torrent of water and a lance of ice. Veloxer and Grey Fullbuster both came in to attack Rufus, but both attacks did not hit. They all looked at each other, cautious on who would attack first, but they heard the chiming of bells. Time's up. The commentator yelled as the whole town projection began to fade away. Naruto walked towards the other contestants with both hands behind his head. He whistled as he got closer to Rufus. Here are the rankings. You almost lost that second place spot. Naruto commented as Rufus looked at the rankings, not amused by what he saw. It seems that the others were getting points while Naruto was avoiding Rufus's attack. He ignored Naruto as he walked away, leaving a cocky Naruto smirking at the rest of them. He noticed Gray was silent as he walked away. He actually wanted to tease Gray, but he connected gaze with Urza Scarlet. He quickly looked away and decided to walk back towards his own guild. Coming in as a wild card, Raven Tail's Fishcake has take first place. Naruto stopped and pulled out a kunai. Covering it with chakra he threw towards the commentator, who quickly ducked. The kunai pierced the walls behind him, holding his wig. I don't know where that nickname started, but it ends here. From now on, I want every mage to know the person who will kick all your asses. Naruto said as he held his fist on his chest. Name is Naruto Uzumaki, believe it. Silence followed for a few seconds before there could be heard cheering coming from the audience. Naruto smiled as he waved at the audience as he headed towards his guild. Only Naruto would do something like that, Makarov said as he palmed his forehead, hiding his smile. Mavis smiled at the change of demeanor caused by said blonde as the rest of her guild followed. Only Naruto would pick a fight with every mage in the tournament. Mikao said as Wabaka smiled and nodded. And all because he didn't like his nickname. Wabaka joked as Mikao laughed. Romeo smiled at his dad as he looked down at Naruto. That guy is pretty cocky. Sting commented as he watched Naruto smile and wave at the crowd. I wonder if he has the power to back it up. Yukino, Rogue said as he turned to look at Yukino. Isn't Fishcake the one you met at the northern border? Yes, I met him some years ago at the northern border. I was struggling in defeating the listed Chimera until he arrived. Yukino told Rogue, who nodded while Sting turned away from her when she finished. I bet he isn't stronger than me though. Sting said as he leaned on the rails, his head resting on his palm. So that really is Naruto. Milana whispered in Kagura's ear. Her expressionless face didn't change as she gave a light nod. Milana smirked though as she whispered another thing that caused Kagura to react. You must be excited to see your boyfriend. He's not my, Kagura said as she noticed her teammates looking at her. She looked away as Milana giggled behind her hand. Seems that brat that followed you around got tough on us. He's even cocky now too. Gajeel said as he looked at Marahin, who nodded. She was still confused about the memory Naruto had of her. That was at the Harvest Festival when she fought Freed. Why did Naruto have a memory of her falling if he was safe at the guild hall with Master that day? Yeah, it got me wanting to fight the kid. Laxa said with a smirk as Gel watched silently. All teams stayed quiet as the commentator explained the rules and how they are scored for the upcoming battle rounds. Some were anxious about whether they would fight or not. Naruto looked uninterested until the names finally came up. Nulpetting was the most cautious of his team, so he decided to scout who would most likely participate. So his eyes widened from the name of the mage who would fight Naruto. Our first fight will be an exciting one. The commentator said as he got off his chair as he announced the first 2 competitors. From Lamia Scale, we have Wizard Saint, Iron Rock Jura. The crowd cheered at the thought of a Wizard Saint fighting first. For Raven Tail, we have the loose cannon fish. He hesitated as he remembered the kunai. Naruto Uzumaki. Be careful boss, this Jura is tough. Naruto held his hand up, stopping Nulpetting from saying any more. Thanks Nulpetting, but I got this. I told everyone I would beat any more, and that includes Boldy over there. Naruto said as he walked past a worried Flare and Nulpetting. Kurehebi didn't say anything as he and Abra left the arena. Good luck Jura. Jura's youngest teammate, Shiria said. Jura politely thanked Shirya as he walked closer to where Naruto was waiting. Lion, do you think Jura would be able to beat Naruto? Lion smiled at the smaller girl as he looked at Jura. Don't worry because I believe without a doubt that Jura is the strongest mage in all of Fiori. Lion said as Sherry smiled at him. Didn't think I would be fighting you so early in the games. Naruto said with his hands behind his head. Nor I, Jura said with a smile as both hands were covered by his sleeves. But I'm more surprised you joined a guild like Raventail. Meh, I like their pitch. Naruto joked as his demeanor began to change as the pumpkin asked if they were ready. Naruto pulled out a kunai as he took a fighting stance. Forgive me if I go all out. Jura said as he smiled at Naruto. I wouldn't like it any other way. And? Why do you look so worried, Mira? You saw the kid, he can watch out for himself. Gajiel said as he watched both Naruto and Jura stare at each other as the proctor has yet to call a start on their match. It's not that, Jura right there is a wizard saint. Laxa said as he stood next to Mirahin, who held her hands close to her chest. Wizard saints are supposed to be the strongest mages in all of Fiori. Really? That guy doesn't look that tough. Gajiel said as Naruto pulled out a kunai and took a stance. I don't think me and Urza could beat Jura if we teamed up against him. Mira said as she looked at Naruto. She was proud that Naruto grew up to be a strong mage, but she could not change how she saw Naruto. Naruto was the one that helped her overcome any doubts that she was a demon, and Naruto was there for her and Elfman when they thought Lysana was gone. Naya. You must be so worried for him, right? Now Milana said, trying to tease her nonchalant teammate. It didn't work as she simply shook her head. I don't really care who wins or who loses this fight. Kagura said simply, causing Milana to turn her head slightly in confusion. The rest of her team heard their little interaction, and Risley Law was the one to ask the question that has been bugging her. By chance do you both know that Naruto guy? Risley asked as she was curious by the earlier teasing by Milana. These Kagura's boy. Milana stopped as Kagura gave her a cold glare. Milana looked frightened as she took several steps away from her. Kagura turned away from Milana and looked at her guild. Before joining Mermaid Heel with Milana, I was traveling all over Fiori with him. Everyone knew who she was referring to as Arana, the Mermaid Heel mage who uses web magic was the first to react. So he really was yours. She was quickly cut off by an annoyed Kagura. Do not misread my acquaintance with that man. We only traveled Fiori in hopes of. Kagura hesitated for a bit before regaining composure. Learning magic. Whoa, so he must be really strong. Beth said with shock that their ace trained with a boy. I do not know. She turned back to the stadium as the action began. The last time I saw him fight, I had to save him. Naruto quickly took a step back as a pillar of rock shot out of the ground in front of him. More began to come out and try to hit Naruto, who began to dodge each one. Naruto uses chakra to stick to one pillar before hopping onto another as the prior one crashes to the ground. His control falters for a bit, meaning he slowly falls as his eyes stayed on Jura, who was ready to capitalize. A pillar was heading over to Naruto, ready to give a powerful hit, enough to knock him out. Before his attack could hit, he lost control of his attack as he had to use complete physical strength so he wouldn't fall down on his knees. He realized that the strange gravitational change stopped, but he could not react fast enough as Naruto summoned 3 clones that went forward to attack him. One slid down the ground before landing a powerful upward kick that caused him a moment of stun. He regained his composure as he noticed the second clone going for a strike towards his abdomen. Jura was able to block that punch, but the third one quickly used a second as leverage and gave a powerful kick to the side of Jura's unprotected face. Jura was kicked a few feet away from those 3 clones, shocking the crowd. It's been a long time since I've been hit. Jura said as he wiped some blood from his lips. Naruto smirked as he was a few feet behind his 3 clones. His confidence quickly diminished as a fist made of Jura's magic quickly destroyed the 3 clones as his eyes laid on the last Naruto, who was now cautious on what was to come next. He would be forced to jump back before the ground below his feet shot him upwards, before 6 smaller pillars formed from the giant one that launched him up. They quickly shot towards the defenseless Naruto, who was unable to avoid any of them. Jura was content, but then he noticed that Naruto disappeared in smoke. He also noticed a dark cloud begin to form over the arena, causing confusion. He looked around for Naruto, causing others watching to be confused as well. Jura looked everywhere until he felt a stronger wind begin to form. "Yo, wizard saint." Jura looked up to see a smiling Naruto standing on one of the 4 statues that stood over the arena. Naruto held a golden spear that held light green energy surrounding it. "Wanna see what happens when the destructive meets the indestructible?" The indestructible crumbled. Naruto said as he brought the spear down as his spell had been called. Ryugo's Gale Vortex. Rock Mountain. The powerful descended from the skies as everything was destroyed by the powerful winds. No one could see the damage as they had to look away as the winds were too powerful. Every pillar that was created by Jura was cut to pieces as if they were not as hard as iron, which Jura took pride in. The wind stopped as Naruto jumped back down the arena as he looked at the cloud of dirt his wind created. He narrowed his eyes as he waited to see if Jura was done or not. Ryugo's strongest wind-based attack destroyed everything in the arena, including the pillars of solid rock. Right now he waiting with a little worry that he may have killed the wizard saint and he'll be tried for murder. I hope I didn't kill him, Naruto said with worry as he heard Labyrinth speak. A human using a dragon spell pales in comparison to a dragon's. Naruto shook his head as the usual silent dragon decided to speak up for the first time in days. Rumbling Mount Fuji. Naruto could not react as he was surrounded by an immense release of magic power surging from the ground. The dust cloud covering Jura diminished as it was revealed to show a giant armored stone statue covering Jura with his hands. Slowly the rock formation began to crumble as parts began to fall off. It fell to pieces as it showed a panting Jura joining his hands together. The light resembling a grand eruption died down to show Naruto in a partial takeover, holding his hand down as he showed signs of injury because of the attack. His right side of his body was covered by dark-scaled armor as his other half showed damage. His whole left sleeve was completely gone as shown after Naruto could not keep Labyrinth's power intact. Naruto dropped down to one knee as his breath became harder to leave his lungs. His eyes watched Jura leave the crumbles of his rock formation and walk towards him. That attack of yours was quite powerful. Jura said as he looked down at a shocked Naruto. That wind was truly a destructive force. You must have used a lot of magic to enforce that defense of yours, Naruto said as he tried to regain his footing. I was more impressed by your power to nullify. Was it the same power you used earlier? Naruto just smiled at Jura, suddenly as 3 clones popped out of nowhere. Jura disposed of those clones immediately as a fist made of stone took care of the clones and went straight towards the real Naruto. Naruto's right hand transformed as he held it towards the upcoming attack. Jura's attack stopped in front of Naruto as it suddenly broke to pieces of stone. Suddenly many spikes made of stones shot around him. Jura watched as one of the spikes held his black shirt. Jura suddenly looked to his right as Naruto kicked Jura. Naruto readied another kick, but he underestimated Jura's ability in close combat. He grabbed Naruto's leg and pulled him towards him. He grabbed Naruto's face and slammed him to the ground. Jura thought that slamming Naruto hard enough on the ground would be enough to end this fight, but he was wrong. He noticed that all the feeling in his arms was gone as he had to jump back as he realized that Naruto's transformed arms tried to touch his face. Naruto's mindscape. Seems he was able to use your power in a way you could not. Kurama said with a smirk as he stared across the altered mindscape towards Labyrinth. Labyrinth ignored the fox as he continued watching closely. Naruto used his power that let him alter the time of anything he touched, be it physical or magical. Normally Labyrinth used it to decay or revive, Naruto found a way to use it differently. He didn't deteriorate Jura's arm, but instead put the strain of fatigue on it. And he did all of this without your help, dragon. Kurama continued to try to rile up Labyrinth, who was unaffected by the fox's words. Kurama noticed this and smirked as the next thing said did get a reaction. To think, the man who nearly defeated your creator all those centuries ago has become so strong without any help. Labyrinth looked at Kurama who could smirk at Labyrinth. His despise for the person responsible for the end of the Tails beasts and the creation of dragons got to him. Imagine how strong he'll be when he remembers. You sly fox, you know more than you let out. Labyrinth said as he showed no reaction to the fox. Haha, wouldn't you like to know what I know? Kurama said with a laugh as he decided to focus his attention back to Naruto. He recalled everything that happened before Naruto was given a second chance as the child of prophecy before he woke up in Magnolia's forest. I can't feel my arm. Jura said as he formed a wall in front of him as a barrage of kunes flew towards him. He then had to jump back as he felt a gathering over his head. He was correct as a bolt of lightning struck the ground where he once stood. He didn't have the needed speed to dodge a bolt of lightning, but he was thankful his ability to sense magic was strong enough. He brought down the wall to have better clarity on Naruto's current actions. He was more confused when he saw Naruto with his palms out towards his spear, which stood straight on the ground. Set change. Bolt cleaver. Naruto grabbed the shaft as it suddenly changed appearance. What was once a golden spear was now an axe with a chain on it. Naruto grabbed the chain and started spinning the weapon on his right side. He smiled as Jura as the weapon began to conduct a barrier of electrical magic. Naruto sent the axe towards Jura while he held the chain that began to expand. Rock wall. Several walls formed in front of Jura, ready to defend Jura of any incoming attack. Naruto was already prepared for any action Jura was going to do, so he stopped his straightforward attack by spinning his body. The weapon that was expanded by the chains went around the arena and headed towards Jura's side. The crowd cheered when Jura was quick on his feet and summoned another rock wall. This one was singular as he was only able to make one before that attack could land. Naruto's attack cleaved through his rock wall, but Naruto couldn't see Jiraiya from where he stood. He was suddenly surprised when he noticed an arm grab his left foot and a hand made of stone grab his other one. He then watched his hands made of stone grab his two hands, separating him from his weapon. Jiraiya then split the earth to show Jiraiya holding Naruto's foot, while his weak arm showed little mobility as his hand managed to control the stone that trapped Naruto. "Do you have anything else I should be surprised by?" Jiraiya said with a smile as he trapped Naruto. "Or can we end this match?" "Well, there is one more thing," Naruto said as Jiraiya had to release as Naruto's hands transformed. He broke free from the stones and sprouted wings again as he tried to fly away. Jiraiya used his strength to keep him on the ground. Naruto was annoyed as he tried to touch Jiraiya again with his palms, but Jiraiya would not allow it. Naruto had to use his palms instead to break the incoming pillars of stones Jiraiya managed to summon. He was overwhelmed as one pillar trapped Naruto's right arm by grabbing his forearm. Naruto tried to break it with his other hand, but it was suddenly grabbed by another pillar. Naruto looked down in anger as he desperately tried to figure out a way to come on top. "I can do this, I know I can, just like I practiced," Naruto said to himself, as suddenly his lower face changed to look like the lower half of the dragon hybrid he transformed into 7 years ago. Jiraiya also noticed that Naruto's left eye was no longer blue, but black. "Forgive me," Naruto suddenly said as suddenly gray fumes came out of Naruto's mouth and covered the trench Jiraiya created. Jiraiya's magic weaponed, and so did the strength of the hold Jiraiya had on Naruto flew away as he suddenly crashed as his partial takeover deactivated. He coughed then gasped for air as the poisonous residue of Labyrinth's power stayed and weakened Naruto himself. He picked himself as he walked towards the trench, expecting to see Jiraiya lying unconscious, only to be hit by a stone pillar that crumbled immediately after. He rubbed the blood of his lips as he sat up to see a strange Jiraiya walking out of a trench. Black liquid was coming out of the side of his lips as he held his weak arm. "Son of a bitch," Naruto said as he stood up only for him to trip back on his knees. He could only look up to see Jiraiya barely holding himself together, but Naruto's was no better. "You used that attack with your human lungs." Naruto heard Labyrinth, but he could not focus on him right now. He spit out black liquid as he stood up as Jiraiya closed in. "Call the Sky Dragon Slayer or you will die." Naruto knew that it was stupid for him to use such an attack without transforming more than he was, but he had little magic left and he could transform his mouth to intake and release the attack. His lungs were not altered to that of a dragon's strength as the magic damaged his insides. Jiraiya would not be in critical condition like he was, as the outtake was weakened to affect Jiraiya's ability to use magic and poisonous enough to cause exhaustion and minor organ damage. "I promised and I never go back on my word," Naruto said to Labyrinth, referring to his declaration that he would beat everyone in this competition. Labyrinth was bothered by Naruto's stubbornness, but Naruto was not bothered. As he managed to stand up, Naruto felt that it was not harder to breathe as a burning feeling in his chest intensified. He was barely conscious as he watched Jiraiya now standing in front of him. He looked down at the shorter Naruto before declaring. "Your conviction was stronger, Naruto," Jiraiya said before falling into unconsciousness. Naruto could only watch in surprise as his victory was only confirmed by the pumpkin-headed official that made the smart decision to watch from a safe distance. "Naruto of Raven Tail has defeated Jiraiya of Lamia Scale." That was all Naruto could handle as he spat out more black liquid before falling back. And what if Naruto pretends to be weak? Fairy tale, and thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys next video.